All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to yet another episode of XS Succeed. This is something like episode 102 or something, and I am so pleased to have a returning Rose back for one last ride to tell me a little bit, maybe a lot of bit, about Rachel. Rose,
Hello.
thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course, the question on everybody's mind, obviously, is Rose, can we break the length record on an XS Succeed episode? I think yes. I think that there's a decent chance that this could be the longest episode we've ever done, and I'm so
That might
excited
be
to
the
see if we can
case.
do it.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll
I
see.
I was getting nervous about it. I'm just like, I have to stop thinking about whether it's gonna. I'm just gonna go at the pace that makes sense, and it's Gearface's problem if I go like 3 hours by mistake.
Yeah, no, I've wanted to see if we could break Coroner's record for a little while, and this might be the best chance we've got. Um,
Yep.
Cannot wait. I'm actually legitimately extremely excited about Rachel. I really like this character, and I don't know very much about her, and I want to learn a lot more. So a couple disclaimers, as always, before we get started. Number one, I think as an expert that you should play Exceed for fun, viewer. We're going to be talking about playing Exceed to win on this show, and sometimes those two things line up. Sometimes they don't really overlap very much. Hopefully they do. Hopefully the stuff that you are hearing on this lesson sounds fun to you. If it doesn't, don't play that way. Play the way that you do find fun. That's like a self-care thing, but also it's going to keep you playing the game longer. You'll enjoy it more, and because you're enjoying it more, you're going to learn faster. You'll get better in the long run. So play the way you want to play. And if that's not what you're hearing on the lesson, don't play that way. Disclaimer number two is we don't know everything. I don't know anything. Rose knows some things, et cetera, et cetera. We average out to knowing like a little bit between us. Um, uh, Exceed's obviously not a solved game. Rachel's a complicated character, and I'm pretty sure there's a lot of lines on how to play her. So anything that we're saying declaratively, you're probably going to hear us say, like, always do this, never do this. Take all that with a grain of salt. Develop your own lines with Rachel and tell us why we're wrong. Yeah, with all that out of the way, Rose, please tell me a little bit about Rachel.
Yeah. Thanks for having me again. I'm excited to be here for this guide because Rachel is the coolest character around. She is my Exceed main. She's theoretically my BlazBlue main. Because when I was in high school and played like a tiny bit of like Continuum Shift, I think was the one at the time, and I had played one fighting game ever. I was like, oh my gosh, this mechanic where you get to push both characters around using the wind is so cool. There's so much like depth and room for expression here, and I think they did a really good job of porting that over to Exceed with the way Rachel works in this game.
I feel like nowhere more than Blaze Blue is the fantasy of Exceed is a fighting game that you can play without execution like more evident. Because I've seen the finger gymnastics you have to do to play. I mean, to play Blaze Blue in general, but to play Rachel,
Yeah,
and the idea of being able to get some of that flavor without having to, uh,
yeah,
have
like
without having to
actually play
without having to
BlazBlue
break
Rachel.
without having to break your fingers. Yeah, sounds pretty appealing to me.
Yep. So yeah, I actually had a kind of roller coaster of like I was really interested in Rachel for exactly that reason. I was not that interested in Rachel because I think season 5 is kind of a more of an expert season, and I was like not at that point in my learning curve that I appreciated Rachel. To
Right,
oh wait, this Rachel character is awesome. Actually, the whole
right.
time I
You
was right
can
at the beginning.
you can return to. I mean, this happens sometimes with fighting games where like you have a character that really you're really drawn to, and either community impressions or your own play experience. Like maybe this one's a little bit hard for a newbie. Let me go.
Yeah,
Let me go learn Ryu really quick, and then come back to I don't know. Uh, I mean, Rachel's an awesome example, but like honestly, half of Blaze Blue are some real complicated expert level characters.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, so excited to be able to share some knowledge about this character with other people who might be feeling the same way. She is complicated. I know from the little bit of experience that I have, she's one of the harder characters to play and exceed.
Yep. So that's a pretty good segue into like what is this character about? What is Rachel as a character in Exceed like? We've been saying it for like a minute and a half or longer now, but yeah, she's a really complex, difficult character. You've got lots of chances to make choices as her, and lots of times if you make those choices wrong, you lose as a result, which I think is a great thing, a great feature of a character because you get to like see what you did wrong and how to like at the end of the game when you're like, why did I lose that game? You can see like multiple points. You're like, well, I messed up here. I messed up here. I
Right.
know I did this wrong,
Right.
etc.
And obviously, like Exceed is like that anyway. There are multiple decision points in every
Mm,
character's game plan, even the more linear ones. But like with a more complicated character, with one that is more micro decision heavy, I guess more freeform, more expressive in how you're able to play. There, you like you're deviating from the line, title case all the time because
yeah.
they're and then you can just kind of find for yourself, oh, here are all of these moments where I was making decisions that I made the incorrect one.
Yep. I think another reason that comes up besides just the number of decisions you get to make is that she's a really force sensitive character. Like you're going to be expensive and both force engaged to do what you want to do. And it's really easy to like look at what you did in the past and be like, oh, I wasted a force there. And if I had one more force right now, I would have won the game type of thing.
Okay, I see. So lots of options, lots of things I can do that are going to be impactful, but I'm on a tight enough budget. Obviously, again, this is
Yeah.
the Exceed thing of like you have all these great things and you can't do all of them because you can't afford all of them. Uh, like Rachel kind of underlined that idea over and over again. That's like her whole identity.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So we've touched on like complexity and difficulty. We've touched on that she's really expensive. She's pretty flexible as well. She is zoner adjacent. She has multiple good projectiles. She has a lot of like flexibility in her ranges, so she can get a lot of value out of zoning. But she doesn't have the type of inevitability that like, oh, I'm going to eat low tiger shot over and over again that Sagat has, or I'm at range where every single card in News deck hits me and none of the cards in my deck hit her. For Rachel, she actually uses up her projectiles and she has to go through a somewhat convoluted process to get them back. So she will try to zone, but it's not the only thing she does.
Okay. So I,
Um,
I should I should think of zoning as like our other comparison point for a zoner, maybe a part-time zoner is somebody like Ryu, who has a loopable projectile. He's got a win condition at range, right, where he can just kind of, if
mhm.
you let him, he'll get away and throw fireballs. But that's like one dimension of his game plan. It's not something that he'll just do forever unless you. The expectation of the game is that you won't let him do that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, similar idea with Rachel.
Yeah, similar.
Okay.
Sh so about what ranges she does like, again, pretty flexible. You can be fine at long range, though against like a newer Sagat, you will probably lose. You can be fine at close range, but your cards can be a little more technical to make work there. And you can be fine in the mid range. Mid range is probably the range you would like to be at because mid range lets you both go to short and long range depending on what you need to do at the moment. And you just have like Whirlwind, Flying Lobelia, these cards that are good in the middle ranges.
Right. Okay. So a lot of times when we talk about characters who are very flexible and who have uh lots of different lots of different ranges that they can use, the end result of this lesson, if you skip ahead 2 hours, is that the Ryu game plan, the Kai game plan, the Propeller Knight game plan is often like you are going to win a game by customizing your game plan to be what your opponent's character can't deal with, right? The sort of like Shoto, like all rounder experience of like you don't have a game plan, you have a counter punching game plan. Is Rachel like that, or is she
Not
more like
exactly.
she's more game plan focused of her own?
Yeah, she has her. So you are going to be adapting to your opponent's game plan, but probably to the same extent that like everyone does, except for like
Okay,
the really linear characters.
sure, yeah.
Um,
You're going to be trying to zone Zangief harder than you're trying to zone Sagat, but that's true of everybody.
exactly. Yeah.
Got it. Okay, okay.
And because you are flexible, because you can fight at both long and close range, you do have what you're talking about there, where you can kind of adapt to your opponent's game plan. But I guess the reason it's not quite ringing true to me is like if you have a character that really likes close range that's fighting Rachel, you're when you have a chance, you'll absolutely go to long range and throw projectiles at them. But what's more likely to happen for a lot of the game is you'll be stuck at close range because they like close range and will have made close range like the where the game is playing out.
Sure.
And you will use the tools in your kit that are better at close range to survive that situation, as opposed to
Okay, so you're customizing your deck again, kind of similar to how every character is playing Exceed. Like if you are in a situation where the card is good, you're going to use the card, but it isn't like a complete game plan metamorphosis the way that it sometimes is for a Ryu or a Kai.
yeah,
Okay,
because Rachel's also a pretty combo heavy character. Like we're going to have scary endgames. We're going to be like exerting our own threats on the board that the opponent has to deal with, as opposed to
being
primarily having
being like
threats,
purely
whatever.
reactive, purely
Yeah,
like run down the option that deals with whatever I'm doing and then hammer that over and over again.
yeah, exactly.
Okay, I gotcha.
Um, and the last thing about the kind of character overview, this is a really brain burny character. Characters is just games as Rachel tend to go fairly long. You're making a lot of decisions for the majority of the game, and yeah, it can get pretty exhausting after a couple games in a row.
Okay,
Um,
so maybe pair Rachel with like a Taukaka on your tournament team, somebody who you can play sort of like. I'm not going to say that Taukaka is exactly a head empty character, but you can find success with her after you've already burnt out on Rachel.
yeah, something like that.
Yeah, so look for ways to keep yourself in the game once you've exhausted yourself playing Rachel. Okay.
Yep. So I guess let's start with the character ability because that kind of tells you about the character. And what this character ability tells you is, wow, that's like 6 lines of text.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Um,
That's some Polar Knight text.
yep. So there's two parts to this though. It's two separate clauses. It's not one like 6 line clause. You
Right.
have this movement control and you have your lightning rods. I'll talk about the movement first because I think it's kind of what makes the character tick. The lightning rods are a important part of the kit, don't get me wrong, but the movement is like constantly present.
Okay, sure.
Um, so this is how we are representing that kind of Sylphie drive from BlazBlue where you can push yourself and the opponent around. On front side, you can move yourself around by spending force. This is the move action, sort of. Um, Unlike the move action, or the walk action, I believe is the modern name, where
Right.
you can't pass over the opponent, but also unlike the walk action, you get to do it and then take another action, which is incredibly powerful.
Yeah,
This is like what makes the character function.
so like move and is just really strong text, right? I mean, we have our training dummy again, Ryu over here with lightning reflexes, move to and strike. It's a one force ultra boost.
Yep.
That's a really big deal for a character to have. And Rachel just I was about to say gets that for free, and that's the wrong tone to take with Rachel, but
Yes.
it's not on a boost. It's not a conditional thing that she only gets sometimes. That's just part of her identity.
Yeah, it's really flexible movement. Like you were comparing it to that one force ultra boost. Any ultra in Rachel's deck says move up to 2 and take another action.
Yeah,
It's up to 2. You could spend it for just one. You probably won't because again you're really force sensitive, so you would rather not use an ultra. But you could if you had to.
right.
And you can also move 2, spending 2 non-ultras, move just 1, etc., etc.
And
It's
it's not
incredibly
and it's
flexible.
not and strike. It's and whatever you want.
Yep.
Yeah. That's
So
actually crazy. Like it's probably worth we're going to be talking about all the other things you can do with this ability I'm sure over the course of the lesson, but like it's worth underlining that on its own is nuts.
yes. Um, on the other hand, this is, as you were just saying earlier, this isn't free. This is actually a huge thing we're going to be spending a lot of force on because a lot of the time in Exceed, the move action is not the most force efficient thing you can do. You don't generally say like, "Oh, it's turn 1. I'm going to walk free forward." You're going to
Sure.
boost run because that
Yep.
costs you 1 card instead of 3 cards.
Right.
And Rachel doesn't do that. You don't get to boost run and take another action. You have to spend 2 force to move if you want to move 2.
Right. Okay.
Um, so I mentioned this earlier, but I didn't really talk about it too much. This is closer retreat, not advanced retreat. We really don't like being stuck in the corner because that just turns off like if we're here and Ryu's here, this whole action does nothing except let us burn force for no benefit.
Right.
Which you could do if you wanted, like, to get out of a reading or something, but probably don't. You probably don't want to do that. It's not.
Yeah. So
a good
this
use of
is like a serious loss condition for us, is not having anywhere to go.
Yep.
Okay.
So for that reason, another thing about run, this is a really important tool for us because run is one of our ways to get out of the situation. Run
Right.
says get back into the long side of the board a lot of the time.
And should I assume then that, like, I want to, like zoners often do, zoner adjacent characters often do, I want to have space behind me so I can potentially be here, and then kind of hold this space as best I can, and
yeah,
do
ideally
a fighting
you're in
retreat.
this, like, you're in, like, the center. Exactly. So you're in the center of the board. You have the option to move forward. You have the option to move back, but you have the flexibility to go wherever.
Okay.
Because we have this ability to move and take another action, and it doesn't, like, cost us a specific boost or anything, we get to just kind of deny setups. Like if Ryu's sitting here and he boosts light or something,
Right.
you can just go, I'm at range 5 and I'm striking with my guarded projectile.
Right. Yeah. Your Hadouken. I don't care how fast your Hadouken is. It's not dealing with Lobelia.
Exactly.
Okay.
So, we get to do that. We get to get out of setups, like you were kind of alluding to. We don't just move and strike. We move and boost. We even move and prep, because why not, right? It's
sure.
If we really need move one, the walk action is less efficient than move one and prep.
Sure. Okay. So the I guess first of all, and I'm sure there's going to be situations where we just take the regular old walk action if we need to move more than 2. But ideally, if we need to move around the board and we don't have a more efficient way to do it, if we need to do more things on our turn, this is what this is here for.
Yep. This is not the only way we have doing that. We have another one which is also representing the same thing in the character, really. This boost called Selfie Flight.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So we have that, and run, and backstep are very important boosts for us because they are, again, flexible, force-efficient movement.
Got it.
But
okay.
Yes, we're probably not going to take the walk action almost ever. I think the main time we would is if we don't have run or Selfie Flight and we really need to get out of the corner.
We need to get out. Sure.
We might walk.
Okay, sure. And so, like, normally with a character ability that, you know, influences the game as much as this does for Rachel, I would ask you for, like, what are some things you can do with this ability? And I mean, like, I don't know. I mean, go to range 3 and spike or dive or something is kind of like the obvious example that comes to mind. But, like, this is so flexible and so open ended that, like, the sky's the limit. Like, you can do this. You can do so much with this.
That scenario I was talking about earlier, Ryu boosts light and we're at this range. Okay, we can go out here. We can strike with Tiny Lobelia. We can also just, like, go in here and strike with Sweep. That's another thing.
Right.
We have our own light, and Ryu says, okay, well, this is a range where speed doesn't matter. Not anymore. We're still in a range where speed matters.
Right.
There's just so many different things you can do with this.
So we can use it to like confirm a payout. We can use it to deny our opponent stuff. We can use it to play neutral. We can use it to play footsies. It is kind of like our everything button.
Yep.
Okay.
The one thing is, going back to this is really expensive. Have a reason for doing this. Don't just, like, oh, well, I kind of want to be one space closer. I'll move forward and prep. Never mind. I'll be back here. Like, that's just wasting force. Do have a plan when you're going to use this action.
Okay. And I mean, like, one of the first things you said was that Rachel has a lot of decision points where you are doing impactful things over the course of the game and it's costing you resources. I guess, like, nowhere would that be more evident than a character ability that's a force sink. This is always here. You can
and take another action as well. Yeah, every turn.
You can always do this. This is a constantly present way for you to screw up.
Exactly.
Got it. Okay.
And then I'm going to talk about the Exceed side before we go to Lightning Rods, just because the Exceed side modifies this ability. It does not modify Lightning Rods.
Okay.
So the Exceed side, 2 parts. First off, it modifies this ability. We can now close, retreat. We can also push and pull. We still can't advance.
Okay. And it doesn't make it any cheaper, I noticed.
It does not make it any cheaper.
It's still the same rate as the walk action.
Yep. Notably, Pull is a little better than walk because if we wanted to walk out of a corner here, it would cost us 2 force, but okay, we're out of the corner 1
Sure.
force.
And really, I mean, push and pull, you cannot do that with the walk action. So like,
Yes, it's also
there
just
there is
a
no
different
actual
effect.
exchange rate between these two things. But in terms of like force moved from your opponent, it's not any cheaper than it was before.
Yep. The other thing is this is still once per turn, spend up to 2 force. Sometimes when we're in exceed mode, we'd really like to do something like, okay, I push for you 1, and then I'll close 1, and then I'll strike. You can't do that. You have to make your choice between are you moving yourself or the opponent.
Okay,
Um,
you're choosing one of these 4 options and spending up to 2 force on that one.
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And then the other side of the exceed mode, this is where what you are paying for the most part. As an overdrive, so at the start of your turn, for 3 turns in a row, when you are exceeded, the third turn you will flip back to front side though and only have your basic action. You get to play a boost from your hand just for free, or not for free. You do pay its force cost, but no action cost,
Right.
and you get to immediately do something else. That's crazy powerful action compression.
Yeah.
Um, so that is basically what we're getting from the exceed side. We're getting this really making our positioning way more powerful, and we're getting this action compression.
Okay. And so with that action compression, I mean, so I'm this Rachel. I'm in this position, and I on my turn spend a force to back up 1, and then with my second action I use light. Right.
Mhm.
And now my opponent has a chance to respond to whatever it is that I'm doing, get out of this situation, counter boost, strike into me, something. And
Yep.
the number of times that I have passed the turn with a strong boost in play, with a setup in mind, and I'm thinking to myself, like, just prep. Please just prep. Please don't move. Please don't strike into me. I need the board state to not change from where I've passed the turn to when I'm getting the next turn. That happens all the time. With this Rachel, I have the boost I want to play. I put it down. I move to where I want to move. I strike all at once. They never had a
Yep.
chance to do anything about it.
Exactly. And that's
Okay.
kind of where we're getting into this is a really combo-y character. This is not the only thing you can do that I would consider combo-y, but just like on the face of it, this is a really combo-y thing.
Sure.
Because you say, like, I'm going to basically unreactably place light, put you someplace that light that spike hits you, play light spike, for instance. Just the
Sure.
most classic like exceed combo.
Sure. Put
And
put you put you somewhere where where spike hits you and you can't cross out, which I could
yep,
I
in this
could do
case, yep,
uh by advancing, I could do by pulling. There's with this much positioning flexibility, I can probably make whatever payout I want to make work okay.
exactly.
Okay. Okay.
Um The other thing about this, which I will get to in more detail once we start talking about the second half of the ability, the lightning rods, this is a good way to actually connect your lightning rods because the opponent playing well can avoid letting you pop them just trivially. They have to stand on the same board space as a lightning rod you've placed down. And this says, okay, you weren't on the place lightning rod is, but now you are.
Okay.
And
So
it's still my
so
turn.
having not learned too much about lightning rods yet, but I've looked at the character. I guess we can kind of call them analogous to like Polar Knight's ice spikes.
In some ways, yeah. I
And
probably, yeah. Mhm.
and imagine when Polar Knight exceeds, he gains the ability to spend force to move his opponent and then take another action. That's that's a
Yeah.
lot more threatening to a character who's putting things on from a character who's putting things on the board than being able to move yourself.
Yep. Exactly.
Okay. Okay.
So I like the succeed side. It can easily be game losing as well because this is the most expensive thing you can do is play the succeed side because you're spending 3 gauge up front. During your exceed side, you probably want to take advantage of this upgraded action, so you're spending force on that. You're playing continuous boost from your hand. So you can go from like I have like 4 gauge and like 6 cards in hand. I'll exceed, and at the end of that exceeded mode, you could have like 0 gauge and a card in hand.
Right.
And if you didn't do things with those all those resources that you burned in that one really awesome overdrive, hopefully, um, you probably lose the game because that you just spent like 10 force to do
Right.
nothing.
And there's an added pressure because this is a time limited overdrive. You don't like all season 5 characters. You don't exceed once and flip, or you'll flip back after a certain number of turns. The pressure is
Yep.
on to make use of this stuff like now.
Yep. I do think this is a little softer than some other overdrives about that. Like the joke, right, is like Ragna exceeds and you backstep and now he's miserable,
Right.
basically. Um, Firstly, I think that's a little overstated because Ragna can like I think a lot of season 5 characters have tools in that situation. But as Rachel, you exceed, your opponent backsteps. Okay, I have projectiles, I can close in or pull you back. I also separately from the projectiles and the movement control, I am paying this gauge to play boosts from my hand, and those will hopefully make my strikes better. But it's not like, again, Ragnar is a good example. You overdrive, and during your overdrive, your strikes just have extra text printed on them. And
Right.
once you overdrive, that text goes away. As Rachel, I can afford to not strike any turn of my overdrive because I'm still playing the boost. I'm still getting the what the overdrive is giving me. I just am not getting the amount of unreactability to it.
Sure.
But
So
I'm
if I
still
if I
getting permanent value on the board by play or
yeah,
quote
if I
unquote permanent.
if I need to, I can slow down. So I mean, the comparison to Ragnar's Overdrive, where what he wants, he flips, has four cards in Overdrive, and he'd better be like planning to strike, 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 strike to make
Mhm.
to get value out of that. With Rachel, I'd prefer to at least get maybe one or two hits out of
Yeah, you
my
prefer to
Overdrive.
get as much as you can out of it because you are
Sure.
paying so much up front.
Right.
But especially on like the last turn of your overdrive, it's not the worst in the world to like, okay, I put down light and now I flip back and now I'm gonna prep because I'm perfectly happy sitting here with light and a full turn.
Right. Right. I've landed in a position where I can be threatening and slow down and maybe rebuild some resources.
Yep.
Okay.
So yeah. You would like to, and like Ragna, if you can do like an advantage chain, so you're even more unreactable, so you have like 2 turns of boosting and doing stuff that the opponent doesn't have a turn to change the board state in response to, that's great. You do want that.
Right.
But yeah, especially don't lose the game trying to force a really high tempo play that has stopped working.
Okay. Yeah. It's solid advice. Is this you mentioned liking the overdrive. Uh Ballpark for me, how like proportionally, how many games are you like percentage wise, how many games are you exceeding as Rachel?
I exceed more often than not. I put it at like 70 or 80%. I think that my playstyle is slightly incorrect. I think the like true optimal Rachel line out there in the universe might be like 40 or 50.
Okay. But hey, listen, we talked earlier on about how you should play Exceed for fun, and this is one of the reasons you like Rachel. So
Yeah,
like
it's
do it more because
it's
it's fun.
yep. It is also just different benefits. We've talked in the past about like there are different game plans with the same character that both have value to them and often
Sure. The
contradict with each other.
the are you a Moonsong Jin or are you a an Exceed mode Jin?
Exactly.
Which is
So
something that a thought experiment that I tell everyone who will listen about. It's my favorite thing to talk about now. So you've poisoned me with that.
perfect.
Um, so I have there are multiple Rachels. Your Rachel is a Exceed more often than not Rachel.
Mhm.
Okay, and so I guess with characters like that who have multiple lines, you look at uh, what you could have gotten out of another gauge expense, like one of her ultras, for example, and you know, if I played this ultra, I would be spending 2 gauge to do some amount of damage with some amount of safety and some amount of economic benefit or movement or something, right? Like it's an ultra, it's probably going to give me something good. I have to assume that by exceeding, I should be shooting for a similar amount of value that I like that's like the benchmark. If I
Yeah,
exceed and
exactly.
if I exceed and don't get the value of an ultra out of it, it was probably a mistake.
Yep,
Okay,
pretty much.
makes sense to me.
Um, and your ultras are jumping ahead a little, just consistently pretty good. So don't feel bad about playing the ultras. I like the exceed because I like the combo aspect of Rachel, and it is like a very good way to set up an end game. But your ultras, if you get a chance to play them for value, absolutely take it.
Okay,
Um,
makes
so
sense.
let's get back to like lightning rods because I started talking about them already, but I didn't even explain how they work. These serve a lot of different purposes for you. You have 3 cards that will place down lightning rods. which are these 2 attacks and this 1 boost.
And just a quick note for viewers here, you've probably noticed that every time Rose touches a card, it does this.
Yeah.
And I believe the reason why is anything on Tabletop Simulator that is meant to be placed on the board as like a permanent or semi-permanent, like an ice spike, like a web trap, defaults to this canted angle.
Yep,
That's
so you
what
can see it.
that's what you're seeing when Rose is touching cards like that. Um, it's
Yep.
it's just a visual effect that's going to happen on Tabletop Simulator. So don't I would say to the viewers, don't worry about what's happening. To Rose, don't worry about like resetting everything after you touch it.
It drives me a little crazy. If they're at an angle, so I probably will, but yes, okay. Um, so lightning rods. Also notably, like every single card is doing this. That's because any card in our deck can be a lightning rod.
Okay, so these ones place them, but anything can be a lightning rod.
Exactly.
Got it. Okay.
So the main way we place them is these 3. The way we place them is these 3 cards. And the main thing we're doing with them is we're kind of controlling the board. We do this in a variety of ways. Firstly, the lightning rods have after you may return this from your opponent's space to deal 2 non-lethal damage. This is just a power bonus, like you were talking about with Polar Knight's Ice Spikes.
Right.
If you hit your opponent with a sweep and they're standing on a lightning rod, that sweep did 8 damage instead of 6, which might have stunned their sweep. Pretty cool.
Okay, so the damage, even though it's at a non-hit timing, it still contributes to the stun.
Yep.
Okay.
And notably, you can also have multiple lightning rods in one space, so you can just keep threatening even more and more damage. Like you could have like 3 lightning rods in one space, and then if the opponent is at that space during your after, they're taking up to 6 damage because you control.
Oh, you can you can choose how many you want to pop.
Yep. So pretty threatening on their own. They also let you recur cards. They return to your hand to deal the damage. So when you're placing cards as lightning rods, you can place cards that you'll want back. We have a couple of different ways to place lightning rods, and unfortunately, they all work slightly differently.
Okay.
I will get to them when we talk to about the cards themselves, but keep an eye out for that.
Yep, makes sense.
Lightning rods also control zones, partly in just the straightforward, like, oh, if you're standing on them, you'll take more damage, but also because this triggers an after timing. It's not a hit timing. You don't need to hit the opponent to zap them with a lightning rod for 2 damage, and that might be enough to stun them.
Okay, so in, let's say here, oh boy. I'm here. Reuse on a lightning rod. Thank you, Rose. Reuse on a lightning rod. I actually do have an answer to a 4-speed or a 6-speed fierce Hadoken. Because I can just throw grasp.
Yep.
Okay.
And this is a little low value for you. Like, absolutely don't get hit by the fierce Hadoken. That is where the value is coming from. You don't really want, like, if you know Ryu's out of Hadokens and he's just standing here in a lightning rod, you probably don't want to waste your turn just hitting for 2.
Right. You could do better than that. But if he's chucking a Hadoken into you on defense, you can just say no and get a card back in the process.
Yep.
Okay.
The reason I'm calling this somewhat low value is, firstly, you remove a lightning rod from the board. You don't have that many ways to place lightning rods, so having them down is valuable to you.
Right.
And secondly, your grasp is not going to gauge or anything. You are still throwing away your grasp to do this.
And so because I'm so force sensitive, that actually matters to me a lot.
Yep. Yeah. Gauge is great.
Okay.
And for you is like, if we're here and there's no lightning rod, and I play grasp and Ryu plays Tatsu. Okay, I traded down by 2 and I got a gauge, and it's not the best strike in the world for me, but like, whatever. Right. If I'm here and Ryu's pretending to play Hadoken and I play grasp and Ryu plays Tatsu, I can deal 2 damage and recur a card if I want to. I might not even want to. I might be like, well, I'm not going to stun anyway, so I'd rather have this lightning rod on the board.
Right.
I don't hit with my grasp. It doesn't go to gauge. Ryu hits me for 5, so I've traded down worse. I don't get any resources out of it.
Okay.
So it is still often, with characters that have Tatsu-shaped moves, kind of a mix-up a lot of the time. And we would really rather do something that also, like, hits. Like, stun the opponent for sure instead of hoping that the 2 damage will be enough. But
Sure,
again,
and
it's a useful tool.
sure, and obviously there is like some amount of option select that we can do because we have a May effect on here.
Mhm.
Like you said, if I throw the grasp and know I'm not going to stun something, I'm like, well, whatever, I just won't do it. But I did already commit to playing the grasp, and that like matters because I've already committed to it not going to gauge. I had better be
Yeah.
planning to get the value out of whatever I'm stopping
Yep.
by doing that, and that's like that's a real consideration that I should be making, and it's a commitment to even get to the point where I can make the option select.
Yep.
Okay.
Um, that said, if we do have the ability to like grasp is a good example because it's probably not the way you want to do this at a range like this. You have something like grasp and put Ryu on a lightning rod. That's great. You're into that. And you have these tools for the most part that also just like let you pop lightning rods fairly easily.
These all have some kind of push effect on them, it looks like. Lily
This
doesn't.
one just hits where lightning rod is, but it doesn't like now the Tatsu isn't really a mix up anymore. It's
Sure.
just going to get stunned.
Sure.
So
Okay.
you get more value out of hitting the lightning rod with these, for
With
instance.
sure, makes sense. All right. And so the push effects, the push is at excuse me, the push is at hit timing. The lightning rod itself is at after timing. Um Although I see an after push on here, so well, I guess we'll get back to that. But if I'm throwing grasp onto a lightning rod, I need to have them land on the lightning rod. This isn't like a.
Correct.
This is where it's not like a Polar Knight Ice Spike.
Yeah. So lightning
Okay,
rods just live face down. So like this is what it would look like. If you play grasp here, this lightning rod cannot be broken unless the opponent plays focus because they will be one of these 4 spaces that
right,
aren't on the lightning rod at the after
right.
timing.
Outside of like
Yeah,
literally,
in that case, that
yeah.
grasp
This
works
this
perfectly.
position, I pull them into me. But for the most part, grasp on a lightning rod, they're safe from the lightning rod.
Yep.
Okay, makes
That's a
sense.
good segue into we're still talking about zone control. There are good and bad positions for lightning rods. The way that like Polar Knight, right? If you remember the Polar Knight lesson, an ice spike under the opponent, great. An ice spike 2 behind the opponent, also great.
Sure.
Because a lot of
You've
Polar
got
Knights are push 2.
his DP
Yep,
that
among
I cannot
others.
remember the name of. What is it?
Among others, I said. I don't actually remember the name
Oh,
either off the top of
darn
my
it.
head.
I'll remember at some point. I'll interrupt you at a really inopportune time.
Oh no. So, good positions for lightning rods. Again, right on the opponent is pretty good, with the caveat that grasp and like flying Lobelia won't work.
Okay.
But that's tolerable. Right behind the opponent, because that's where flying Lobelia does work, and flying Lobelia is a really good card.
Okay.
And then lastly, this is the most like it's good, but it's the most setup. If you can grasp the opponent on lightning rod, or you can push them there with the Exceed. But
Okay.
these
So basically within 2
within
of
2.
the opponent. Yeah.
But you would prefer directly behind them, and you'd prefer right under them to either of those.
Okay. Makes sense.
Bad
And
positions for lightning rods. Oh, go on.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Is that specifically for using lightning rods offensively? Because I we already talked very briefly about Sylphid Flight as a way to move to them.
Yeah, this is specifically for if you are striking where you want the lightning rod to be.
Got it.
There
Okay.
are other uses. I have split this into both zone control and positioning, I believe.
Okay.
And they're pretty similar words.
This
So
this
we'll
is a
get to that.
complicated lesson, Rose.
Oh no. So bad positions for lightning rods. Right here. There's no way you can pop this lightning rod.
Underneath yourself.
Yep.
Okay.
And then one space in front of the opponent is again just like you're not like here's what I would like to do. I would like to assault in, play oh wait.
Right, I can't right.
So those spaces don't tend to do a lot on their own. There is some caveats to that, which is what you were basically alluding to. Lightning rods sit on the board between strikes. So while this lightning rod is not doing anything for me in the short term, Ryu sitting here with as an action you may move 1 really doesn't want to take this action and move 1 forward now.
Right.
Because
it's the difference between zone control and zone denial, I guess.
Yeah, that would be a good way.
So I'm saying, hey, don't again, kind of similar to the Polar Knight Ice Spike. Hey, don't stand here.
Yep.
Could be valuable enough on its own to be beneficial to play it that way. But also, like, having had a little bit of experience with Polar Knight, Ice Spikes tend to stick around for a while. So sometimes maybe I'd be able to leverage the zone denial idea because I put an ice spike or a lightning rod in a threatening position and my opponent diffused that threat, and then it's just kind of hanging around.
Yep.
And
And
then maybe later in the game I can use it as a zone denial tool again.
lightning rods are actually even more persistent than ice spikes, because ice spikes, sometimes you expend them for boosts, sometimes you just move them instead of placing them because you're already at the limit of 5.
Right.
Lightning rods stay around until they get used, and this is the only way they get used that gets rid of them.
Okay.
So once you put the lightning rod down, unless you pop it on the opponent, it's going to stay there for the rest of the game.
It's there forever. So I like the number of times, again, the Polar Knight comparison kind of makes itself. I've put a lightning rod here. My opponent responds by boosting run. And then I look at this lightning rod or this ice spike and I'm like, oh man, that's not going to be useful for a long time. But then over the course of 5 turns, the game has sort of gradually drifted over into this position.
Yep.
And suddenly it kind of matters again.
Yep.
So that's a possibility. That could come up, but maybe I shouldn't set the lightning rod with the intention of having it be zone denial when I set it.
Yep. That's that's a lot of the, here's more micro decisions. When you place a lightning rod, do you place it to immediately threaten something, or do you place it to deny something? Because like Ryu's out here, and I have Tiny Lebelia in my hand, and I'm placing a lightning rod. If I place it right here, it's immediately threatening, but Ryu can possibly just like boost run, and now it's doing nothing for me.
Right.
Alternatively, Ryu's not the best example because he has a fairly good long range game, but let's say he doesn't, let's say he's out of Hadokens. I can place my lightning rod here and say, okay, Ryu, would you like to boost run anymore?
Right.
And now Ryu has to think really hard about like, well, do I even want to run and just move 2 spaces? So it's a trade-off. It's always a trade-off. What I am often looking at is how many cards my opponent has in hand, because that is determining like how able they are to get aggressive. If my opponent's very low on cards, I can probably put the lightning rod right under them and say, use your limited resources to deal with this.
Deal with this right now because I'm going to be threatening to you.
Yep. If they're higher on cards, then they probably have an out, and I would rather kind of control the board more long term.
Plan for the future.
Yep.
Okay.
So, the last thing about lightning rods is there is, like I mentioned earlier, another reference to BlazBlue in your kit, the drive in your kit, the Sylphid Flight. This is a really important boost. And this is the other thing lightning rods do, besides the printed text of your ability, is any space that you have a lightning rod on the board, you can teleport to for the low cost of this Ultra and the Force, but you get your action back.
Right.
Which does combine with your ability. So if there's a lightning rod like here and Ryu's here, I can do teleport and then close to as well for even more force.
Sure. So extremely expensive, but if I need the movement, I need the movement.
Yep. And this boost is important in a couple of ways. It's not another copy of Run when you're stuck in the corner.
Oh, it advances. Sure. It's different from my character ability in that way.
Yep. You can combine it, like I just said, with the ability. You can use it for your endgame. And this is one of the things you actually do at zoning, because your projectiles are limited range. They go 3 to 6 is the longest range projectile you have.
Right.
If we are here and Ryu says, well, if I just step backwards, I cannot be hit anymore.
Right.
And I have a lightning rod here. Well, I can still just teleport in and do something.
Sure.
And in these like really long range situations like this, that often means that you have an advantage, because your opponent, if they want to do something, it probably has to be like, okay, I'm going to spend like 6 force to move, and that's the end of my turn.
Right.
You can say, I'm right here and I'm doing something.
Right. Okay. So I can establish a threat range that's longer than what it says on my cards, as long as I have lightning rods in the correct positions.
Yep.
Okay. Is there like a different frame of mind that I should be in when I'm placing lightning rods for Sylphid Flight than I am when I'm being aggressive with them?
Yes, but you're generally not. So the time that I would place lightning rod purely for Sylphid Flight is like, I'm here, I'm miserable, I wild swing Tiny Lebelia, which places a lightning rod as a cleanup effect. Like I get hit by something because I just don't have anything in my hand, and now I'm like, well, at least I can leave.
Okay.
The rest of the time, it's kind of a mix. Like we're in a starting position, for instance, and you're placing a lightning rod. if I place it like here, I can stop the opponent from coming in. I can place it here and threaten immediately. Both of these are pretty good locations for Sylphid Flight over the course of a long game. I like
Okay.
placing them somewhat centralish for Sylphid Flight because that gives you just more flexibility with where you ultimately end up.
Okay,
If your
that
lightning rod is like in the corner, it's pretty limiting.
that's interesting because the our yesterday I had a lesson on Propeller Knight with Andorel, and he has a fly up on as an ultra boost, which is advance or retreat to any space, basically.
Yep.
And one of the sort of concerns with that is if your opponent is here, for example, you cannot use fly up to get
In a force efficient way.
very far away from your opponent, right?
Yeah.
So the force efficiency of fly up actually kind of incentivizes you to use it when you're like fully cornered and you want to move all the way away or get out of a bad situation. But the the force efficiency concern of Sylphid Flight is one thing, but you're also trying to place it or go to a lightning rod that is going to be relevant to strike from right away or do something from right away.
Yep.
And that means that I've got to kind of like put it in places that are like high traffic areas.
Yep, places that you want to be. Because like it is true you're getting more force out of a Sylphid Flight like in this state,
Right.
but after strike, you're now sitting in this position which you hate being in.
Right.
So you would
And
rather get like 2 less force and be here because you still have the whole board to retreat
right.
to
And
afterwards.
as you mentioned a second ago, like having the long side of the board is a benefit. I would like to be able to retreat when I can. So placing lightning rods in places where next turn I'll be able to back up is
Yep.
valuable. Okay.
Yep, exactly.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
So that is all I'm going to talk about lightning rods for now. We'll get back to them a little bit more later.
All right. Well, thank you for the Rachel lesson, Rose. This has been great. We've talked about one card. I guess a couple more here and there.
Here and there.
Shall we move to the kit breakdown, or is there more stuff that you want to talk about, like general Rachel game plan?
Before we get into like strategy at all, really, I want to talk about some game engine stuff, some mechanics, because Rachel, unfortunately, is going to require somewhat intimate knowledge of some certain edge cases in the rules.
Okay, sounds good. Yep. So this is less about how to this is less about how to win with Rachel and more about how to not incur a game loss in tournament for breaking game state with Rachel.
Yep, and also just general little things that work in certain ways that might be non obvious.
Not intuitive, totally. Okay.
Yeah. So, firstly, let's just get it out of the way. Rachel cares about discard order. Like a lot of discard order characters, she doesn't care that much about discard order, but she does care enough that you have to pay attention to it.
Okay.
So I'm just going to go through like a really basic strike with this is my gauge, this is what I'm striking with, and for you, it defends with a sweep.
So EX Lobelia into sweep.
This
So
is not the most realistic strike because I am just losing the sweep here pretty badly, but
sure. But there are lots of other. I'm assuming that the reason we're talking about this is because the opponent must discard a card at random clause on
yes,
sweep.
There
are ranged versions of this.
Order.
Yeah,
yes.
There are ranged versions of this attack that it could be a range 4 sweep that does a similar thing. We can just edit that in. Okay, so what happens
this
is
here? This covers every single discard order thing I can think of that happens during a
strike. Right. So there's one on validation. There's another on EX timing. There's another on hit, on your opponent's hit.
Yep. So firstly, or actually, sorry, we have this boost in play. So firstly, we both flip our cards up, and I've revealed Flying Lobelia. I have to validate this card. As a force special, it's going to cost me a force or a gauge. I'm going to pay from it with my gauge.
Okay.
But I'm also going to discard the EX copy. These can happen in either order.
Got it. Okay.
So let's say I choose to do this because I probably want Lobelia to be the card that I place back on the board. Ignore that for now, actually. Yes. So I can do that in either order. Just keep that in mind. Okay. Then I will push for you, and that's the end of my part of the strike, and I'll get swept. Right. The swept card goes into my discard. Then cleanup happens. As a cleanup, I can place the top card of my discard face down as a lightning rod, which I'll just put here for, don't think too deeply about why I'm putting it there.
Sure.
Then my boost gets discarded. Then any attacks that miss get discarded, but this one did not miss.
Okay.
So, and unfortunately, you have to do this process right because it might matter. In practice, just put your ultras on top of your discard whenever you have a choice, because your ultras are the cards you're most likely to want to put up from top of your discard.
Okay. So for most of the time that this will matter, it's going to matter because I'm during the strike that is actually occurring right now, I'm going to get something from the top of my discard to the field or to my gauge or something. But
it's actually a little worse than that. So these cards, I'll talk a little bit more in detail when these cards come up, but these have different cleanup clauses. This one has a hit that adds the top card of your discard to your gauge. That's why you want ultras on top of your discard. It's
right.
for next strike, when you play this card, you'll get an ultra to your gauge.
Right.
This card has a cleanup. You may place the top card of your discard face down. This one is a force special, though, so you'll never really get to dig into your discard with it. It'll always be the card that you paid for it with, or something that just gets discarded even later than that.
Okay, so it actually will matter across multiple strikes. So I kind of have to be constantly vigilant of my discard order.
Yes, unfortunately.
Okay.
So in this scenario that I showed here, you'll probably want to put Flying Lobelia on top, because Flying Lobelia is just a really nice card to recur.
Right.
And otherwise, you'll want an Ultra on top, because if you play Tiny Lobelia next turn, you'll want to get an Ultra. That's pretty much it.
Okay. And the reason that you're putting an Ultra, getting an Ultra, is so that you have more force engage. Okay.
Exactly.
Makes sense.
I actually meant to put this in a slightly different order, because there's one other Discord order thing. This is a boost with a force cost. Yes. You pay a force cost, and then you discard the instant boost.
Okay. So if I'm trying to
you would want it to.
If I'm trying to get an Ultra into gauge, I'm not going to accidentally shoot myself in the foot by playing an Ultra with a force cost on it.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. It's helpful to me to remember this just works the way you want it to work.
Okay.
Because you always want to pay the force cost first, and then have an Ultra on top.
And then have an Ultra on top. Got it. Okay.
Okay. So yeah, unfortunately, this is all kind of a micro optimization. Just make sure you're following the rules. Is the main reason I brought this up.
No, it makes perfect sense.
More
help you with things.
That. We have a pool of like 3 different. Here's how lightning rods work that we're about to talk about.
Okay.
Lightning rods. They are placed on the board face down. That's purely to distinguish them from boosts, because some of your boosts also sit on board spaces. You and your opponent are free to inspect lightning rods at any time.
Okay, because they always came from a zone that was known information. Yeah. They're coming from my discard pile. They're coming from the strike that's literally already happening, or from somewhere that my opponent could have seen.
Yep.
Okay.
So both you and them are free to inspect lightning rods at any time. Nextly, hit versus after timing. We talked about this a little bit. They trigger on after instead of hit, which means they sometimes have little funky interactions with push and pull effects. Like if my opponent is here, my Flying Lobelia cannot trigger this lightning rod.
Right.
Because I'll push first, and then the after will no longer be relevant.
Got it. Okay.
There is a little bit of small value here. You play like a whirlwind, and your opponent plays their block. Block is decided after you do hit effects, but before after effects. So your opponent knows they're taking at least 3 damage, but they might be taking 5 damage, and they have to decide how much they're blocking based on this.
Okay, so and so it's like the opposite of an option select. It's they
have to
right. They have less information than they normally would about how much they need to block for, and if they're in a situation where they like literally cannot take any damage, they might overspend to avoid damage, and then you're like, well, you overspent. I don't care anymore. I'm just going to leave it here.
Exactly. This is one of the upsides of having multiple lightning rods in the same space, is just because it makes that disparity even bigger for the opponent when it matters.
Okay. A question about that, just while it's come up. How practical is it to have multiple lightning rods in the same space? Because, I mean, as you mentioned, I only have a limited number of ways to actually put them down. And there's a fair number of spaces on an Exceed board. And it seems like playing for coverage and playing for like stacking, like going horizontal versus vertical,
it is a decision.
They're mutually exclusive, right?
Yes. It is a decision you will probably have to make once a game or so.
Okay.
A couple times maybe. I think in practice, I will tend to prefer placing lightning rods across multiple spaces, but it's not an 100% thing.
Okay.
Nothing Rachel is.
Of course,
Um,
yeah. Are there can you give me a situation where you would be comfortable stacking lightning rods?
yep. Um, range one is a good one, just because the thing opponents like to do when you place a lot of lightning rods is like get out of there. If
Right.
you're at range one, you're probably not like super thrilled to, especially like range one in the corner, and you say, okay, I'm just gonna like place a lightning rod under you, place a
Right.
lightning rod under you, place a lightning rod under you. Eventually, the opponent probably needs to like back away, which is good for you.
Okay.
Um, it is also just like something you can play for. Having a lot of lightning rods in one space makes it easier to get a big payout out of these push effects or like the succeed side flip.
Right.
The problem is lightning rods deal non-lethal damage, which can be surprisingly relevant because by the time you're ready to get the big payout, maybe the big payout isn't actually bigger than a small payout, if you see what I'm saying. Like your
Oh,
opponent would
sure.
already
Yeah,
go to one life either way.
you deal 6 non-lethal damage by triggering 3 lightning rods to an opponent who has 5 health.
Exactly.
And you're like, "Well, okay, I did 4 damage."
Yep.
Got it.
So there's trade-offs.
Okay.
Again, we'll talk about it a little bit more in depth later, but for now, there are reasons to do both.
Makes sense. Okay.
Um, this one will not practically matter, but yet again does come up. If your opponent is not hit, they cannot spend force for block. If you have like 3 lightning rods on your opponent, and they play block and you play grasp, you stun them if you want to.
Oh. At when you are hit after hit effects, no hit occurred.
Yep. This
Spend any
one
amount of force. You can't do that. After on my after trigger, I trigger all the stuff, you just get stunned. That's very funny.
it is pretty funny. This one probably won't practically matter. It is very funny to do it though, so this is there for not playing optimally, but just playing to screw around in guide section here.
Sure. Makes sense. Makes sense. Okay.
Non-lethal damage, we mentioned this earlier. Non-lethal damage does stun even when it doesn't do effective life loss. So
Oh,
if
so
you are, yeah, if you like your opponent's at 7 here and we play a sweep, each of us, I am not getting hit back, even though the lightning rod doesn't actually manage to kill the opponent.
the lightning rod does 6 like damage to my opponent's life bar, but 7 damage to sweep or 8 damage to sweep.
Yep.
Okay.
So they
Interesting.
are still stunned.
Got it. Okay.
Um, we're almost out of the rule stuff. We have 2 more really
Okay.
fast ones. You have an ignore armor card. You also have both lightning rods and other sources of damage in your kit, which are effect damage. Ignore armor is the actual damage of the attack. So if my opponent plays focus here and I play the spike drop, I will hit them for 3 ignoring armor damage, and then my lightning rod will be absorbed by the armor if I choose to recur it.
Okay. And so, but armor's like ablative, right? Like this doesn't matter
Yes.
for this example, but like the uh, it would get eaten up by the armor, and then another lightning rod underneath it would deal the 2
Correct.
full damage because there's no more armor to soak the damage.
Exactly.
Got it. Okay.
So, but just sometimes when you play spike drop and your opponent plays an armored card, if you have like a lightning rod or one of your other boosts in play, the damage totals come out a little unexpected.
Okay, that makes sense. Well, makes
And the
sense for certain values of sense. That is not intuitive, but that is I understand the rules interaction.
Lastly, one last bit of jank, and then we are done. This
Okay.
boost: advance retreat into a space containing one of your lightning rods. Take another action. What happens if I want to go to a space that my opponent is occupying that has a lightning rod? I close as far as possible.
Oh, yeah. So intuitively, I would have said that the boost just fizzles, but
Yeah, that's what I thought for a very long time. But
okay. But
apparently, I think you.
I
Yeah.
do as much as I can, and it is an advance effect. So,
Yep.
well, let's
Yes. You
try to
as much
advance
as you
there.
can.
Okay,
Yep.
sure.
This is actually relevant sometimes because like you're doing some kind of flight, Sylphie flight endgame. The opponent knows that you want to teleport in and win the game.
Right.
They can't just like step on the lightning rod and say, haha, you can't do it anymore. No, you can still do it.
You can do it, just not to that specific space.
Yeah, to the space in front of them because
Right.
they're stepping on it.
Makes sense.
So-
Okay.
Oh, wait, sorry. What I lied to you. One more jank thing. You have cards that do stuff during cleanup. For 99% of matchups, this won't matter. But if there are cleanup triggers for both the active and both players, the initiator resolves cleanup triggers first. So,
Okay.
cleanup, the going back a little, this card does 1 damage. Damage contributes to stun. If Ryu and I both play sweep here, Ryu is stunned during cleanup. So his attack goes off. Like, the stun did not stop him from sweeping. But he is
Okay.
still stunned eventually.
And for characters who care about being stunned even reactively, I can see why.
Exactly. That's why we pulled out the shades earlier.
Yeah.
Is because
Okay.
now cleanup order matters. Guile plays Spike with shades, or how do I do this properly? Guile plays Tiny Lobelia with shades. Don't worry about how that
Sure.
happens.
Yeah. My sick new custom
Yes,
Guile with Rachel cards.
Yes. So Guile plays Tiny Lobelia with shades. You play sweep.
Right.
Guile will take 6 damage and not get stunned during the attack.
Right.
At cleanup, Guile will take a 7th damage and be stunned.
Right.
So if you initiated the attack, your cleanup effect goes first. Guile takes 7, is stunned. By Guile's cleanup effect, they're stunned. If Guile initiated attack, Guile, no matter which character won the speed tie, Guile's cleanup trigger goes first. They were not stunned. They sustain their boost.
At the time of his cleanup trigger, he was not stunned. Therefore, the boost is sustained. Okay.
Yep.
Wow. Yeah, that is a really, for every other. I mean, I already use Guile Shades as like the go-to. Hey, this is really niche. 99% of the time, it's not going to matter, but stun matters on cleanup sometimes. This is even more niche than that.
Yep. There are other situations where this matters, where like Platinum, for instance, Platinum gets to play a boost during cleanup.
Yep.
Depending on which player initiated, you possibly get to choose a lightning rod's position before or after seeing the boost.
Got it. Okay. So this is just kind of like the Rachel lifestyle, is there's a lot of like little tiny interactions in the Exceed rules that we do have to care about that most people don't.
Yes, unfortunately, the even more unfortunate part is like 90% of the time we don't have to care about these either. But in case they do come up, this is what the right answer is.
And in case they do come up, we are the character that is going to be impacted by it. Our opponent doesn't need to keep this in their mind at all most of the time.
Yep.
Okay. Awesome.
So we are done with the jank. Flying Lobelia has one. Flying and Tiny Lobelia have these properties that they place lightning rods on cleanup. This is for the most part just an upside to us, because if we play these cards and later the opponent moves like an optional distance, or later pushes or pulls us an optional amount, we get to see what they've done and then place our lightning rod.
To my knowledge, there are no cleanup move triggers in Exceed. Like everybody, if they're going to move in at an after timing or something, and then we would still be able to do it after we got all the information from the strike.
Yep, I hope that's right. That is, again, if it's not right, it's so close to right that it will not practically matter. But in case it does, we have been equipped with the tools to solve it.
Right. Okay. Can't wait for that. The season 8 drop later this year, where they introduce a whole bunch of cleanup movement just to mess with this lesson.
Gosh, I hope not. I mean, but no, we've. If you've seen this lesson, you know how to resolve it. You will be annoyed, like I am, if they choose to do it.
Right.
But they won't choose to do it. Right. And you'll know how to do it. Deal with it.
Okay. Makes sense.
So let's talk about high-level strategy really fast.
Okay.
And then we will actually get to the kit breakdown.
Okay.
But here's a kind of guiding light. We get to do really messed up things. Our economy is really tight to compensate for it. So we need to do the messed up things in appropriate times that they work. We need to win the game by doing the things that our character is strong at.
Okay.
You've got a lot of choices to make in every turn, so don't just autopilot. Like, are you going to exceed this turn? That's cool. Would you like to like step forward or backwards one before exceeding, maybe? Or lots of little tiny choices.
Yeah.
What force do you want to use?
This is always here. This is always an opportunity to make a mistake, but it's also always an opportunity to optimize.
Yep.
Okay.
Going back to the like, are we like playing the reactive like Shoto game plan? Make your opponent's life as annoying as possible. Do absolutely. You have tools for that. That's something that you're good at as Rachel. You've got these lightning rods, like, oh, you can't stand here or here. Like, neither of these spaces are good spaces for you to stand.
Right.
You have above curve attacks. And you have one really annoying boost called Ivy Blossom, which sits on the board forever until the opponent leaves its base.
Right. Okay.
And these are all pretty good tools for annoying the opponent. This has come up already, but keep long side of the board as much as you can. and figure out if you're going to be like, if this is a matchup where you're going to actually be at range or be stuck up close, because you're going to have to make choices that make you better at playing at melee or playing at range.
Right. And the way that Exceed works is that these choices are, until you reshuffle or until you recur a card, maybe, pretty irrevocable. Like if you are
Yep.
spending cards in order to do things that are strong up close, you might be getting rid of or spending as force longer range cards. So
Exactly.
like kind of know for sure what your game plan is going to be as early as possible.
Yep.
Okay. And then once we've kind of established that, the game plan is going to involve a lot of this, hopefully at some point involve some of this. And setting up combos and dangerous payouts that our opponent is going to have to deal with.
Yep.
Okay.
And you probably need to like proactively win the game. You can't just not lose, because by mechanics of how these lightning rods work, when you reshuffle, like you have, I don't know, like this card on the board and another copy of this card on the board, and you put this on the board as lightning rod as well. When you reshuffle, these are 3 less options that are in your deck. Your deck is that much smaller to compensate for it, and you just don't have those options available as threats unless you
Right.
manage to recur the lightning rods. So if the game goes really long, you will run out of options before your opponent does. So you do need to win the game.
It's like reshuffling when you have an overage of gauge. All of those options are not going back into your deck, and that could matter someday.
Yep.
Okay.
So yeah.
So we need to proactively create game states where we can cash out with some ridiculous thing that only we can do because of this character ability and because of the synergies between these boosts and attacks.
Yep.
Okay.
So I mean, and obviously, if your opponent is like just making like bad strikes and you can punish them, like if the opponent is willing to let you win without doing something proactive, by all means do that.
Right.
But yeah, in a long enough game, you probably are not favored.
Right. And I guess sometimes the proactive thing that we're going to be doing is resource building and resource maintenance, right? Because
Oh, absolutely. Yep.
the classic low tempo option in Exceed is prep, right? But we're a force sensitive character, and I have not seen a whole lot of card draw in our kit overall.
Yep, we love to prep.
We
We prep
do
a lot.
we do occasionally need to stand. I know we have a above curve range 3 option here. We do occasionally need to stand here and prep because we know that we're going to be fairly safe on defense, and that is a proactive. It might be a long term investment, but it is a proactive one as long as we are thinking about how to use those resources that we're getting to kill our opponent. Okay.
But like one way this manifests is say we're here and for whatever reason we want to boost backstep because we like range. Serious consideration to backstep to here where you still have a card that hits, because if you backstep to here, what will often happen is you'll just have to like spend a force to close back in and then play your
And
card
then
that
strike
hits.
with that, sure. So be slightly less force efficient in order to be more force efficient later or more turn efficient later. Like the exchange rate between different resources like turns and cards in Exceed is
Yep.
complicated enough that we've spent approximately 102 lessons talking about something adjacent to it every time we talk about characters. With
Yep.
Rachel, that exchange rate's going to look different because you have a ton of action compression and not a ton of force, but you are still playing the same game of how do I convert these resources into my opponent being dead?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So that is, we are finally ready for the kit breakdown, though I'm gonna go feed my cats now so it's not like a weird stopping point.
Okay. Solid
I
timing.
will
I will
be
see you all
right
in a
back.
little bit. In the meantime, I'm going to look up that Polar Knight card.
Sounds good. Be right
Yep.
back.
Yep. See you in a sec. Viewers at home, this is going to be cut out. But if it isn't, I want to take the opportunity while Rose isn't on the call to talk about how much I appreciate her time and expertise. It's called Stomp, everyone. Everyone, it's called Stomp. I've never been more excited to learn something in this series. I'm gonna take the opportunity while I have the mic to myself to talk about how much I appreciate Rose's time and expertise, because I have a feeling that she would be embarrassed if I said it to her face. She's the best. She's taught me so much about this game, but also the way that she teaches characters has probably more than any other expert I've had on this show had a higher success rate of getting me really interested in trying a character. So I am so excited to be learning a character that I already really like from her. So everybody, you keep this between you and me, all right? Don't tell Rose I said any of that. Especially you, David. I know you like to rat me out. Also, actually, while we're talking about it, the cat that Rose is feeding, I think, has made their presence known on a previous lesson of Excess Exceed. So they are actually also an Exceed expert, who will receive obviously another credit on this lesson. I think it actually probably was. It might have been the Polar Night lesson, which was Rose, Andorel, and Rose's cat. Now that I've talked so much while Rose is gone, I'm thinking about other ways I can kill time until she gets back so that I don't have to cut this out, because it'd be like a funny goof to not cut it out. And it would be more work for me to do it. And I'd have to remember where I put that MP3 of Carnaby Chick by the Don Lusher Big Band, which is my go-to technical difficulties or stall for time music. And that sounds like a lot of work, and I don't want to do that. I'm going to start thinking about the other characters I have left to learn in BlazBlue. I think it's just 9 and Coconut. God, I left all of the hard characters for the very end, didn't I? That's exciting. I've already gotten rid of all of the brain easy characters. All we have left are the brain difficult ones. At some point, I should make a list of like my impressions of all of the characters after I've had recordings with everybody, and like how much I like playing them, and just give some thoughts about like what different experts have done to motivate me to play a given character. I feel like that would be fun. It sure beats talking about Exceed character balance or power level. Are you back, Rose?
I am back. Hello.
Hi. I've been vamping this entire time, so I might not actually cut this out. I didn't stop talking the entire time you were gone.
Okay, sounds good. Did you find the Polar Night card?
Yeah, it's called Stomp.
Okay.
It's the one that doesn't have ice, polar, or shovel in the name.
Yep. The classic Polar Night card naming scheme.
Of course. So, where were we? We were getting back into talking about just the kit breakdown, right?
Yeah, we're finally ready for the actual kit breakdown.
Okay. Yay. We're only an hour and 12 minutes into the lesson. Let's talk about other cards.
Yeah. Sounds good. First off, every card in this kit is force. Every single one.
Okay.
There are also other things. Most of them are both an attack and a boost, but they're also all force, because you just need to spend force, and you will need to make choices about where you're getting it from.
Also, I assume all of these cards are also force.
Yep.
Okay.
So let's start with specials, and we'll start with our 2 lightning rod placing projectiles.
Okay.
This is Tiny Lobelia. This is quite a good fireball. Its power number's a little low, but it's got the 3 to 6 range that's kind of premium for a fireball, because it means that it will beat across turn 1, for instance. A lot of fireballs only go out to range 5. This one goes out to range 6, so you appreciate that.
Right.
It's speed 4 and guarded, so like we were talking about with Ryu Hadoken, this is sort of like if Ryu's is the fast and Ken's is the mid-speed, this is the slow. It's speed 4, guard 4.
It actually can consistently counterattack fast projectiles.
Yep.
Okay.
And it's speed 4, which means it's annoying to like you don't have to worry about a lot of people with their opening like move don't move mix up. If the opponent dives, they beat their projectile. Nope. Right. Your projectile beats dive. They have to assault in to dodge this projectile if they really want to dodge it.
Okay. And I can't help skipping ahead very slightly.
Yeah, this one's even faster.
Yeah, this one catches assault. This one catches cross. there really aren't very many things that anybody can do at range to be completely safe from this mix-up.
Yep.
Okay.
And this card also has a really nice property of it's force positive. It adds a card from discard to our gauge, which is great. This is why, again, we were saying, like, if you have the choice, put a Ultra on top of your gauge, you'll get 2 force back.
Okay, and that heuristic is ironclad enough that even if I'm spending force on something else, if I have the option, put the Ultra on top of my discard pile last most recently, so that if I hit with Tiny Lobelia later on, there's a chance that I'll be able to get the Ultra.
Yep, exactly.
Okay.
It's just as a general rule, you put your ultras higher than your not ultras when you're spending force at the same
Right.
time.
It matters that much that even I should be thinking about that multiple strikes in the future.
Less that and more that every point it probably most of the time will not come up. When it does come up, you'll be very happy that you made the choice that you did.
Sure, and it won't ever be the wrong choice to
It
have
won't
an
ever be
Ultra
the
on top
wrong
of my
choice.
discard.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Okay. Because I can't dig that deep into my discard pile.
No,
if I hit with
cannot.
this many Lobelias and am thinning my discard pile that much, it's a very strange game.
Exactly. Yeah, you
Okay.
probably only have access to the very single top card of your discard. But again, it could matter.
Okay.
This card has some choices as a cleanup effect. You may place this card face down in any space within its attack range as Lightning Rod marker.
Okay.
So to begin with, we've got the same, like, oh, I could put Lightning Rod here, I could put it here. It also is a may. If you miss with this card, it's basically always correct to place it as Lightning Rod, but if you hit with this card, maybe you just want to gauge instead.
Right.
I would still lean towards placing a Lightning Rod just because Lightning Rods are rarer to get than gauge, but sometimes gauge breakpoints really matter, and this is a way to get 2 gauge out of 1 strike.
Sure. So if I already have 1 gauge and I have it's late enough in the game that many of my opponent's options are down, and I have good setups for my Exceed mode, for example, in my hand, drop this into gauge, and suddenly I'm ready to go with my entire combo, and it's the perfect time to do it.
Yep.
Okay.
And then, since I mentioned, like, every Lightning Rod source unfortunately works a little differently, the way this one works is this card itself becomes a Lightning Rod.
Okay. So
this is your looping fireball.
I was going to say this is a very roundabout way of mimicking what Ryu can do with Hadoken.
Yep.
In practice, this is not conducive to, like, projectile spam, right? I can't actually put this down and then next turn wild swing a Hadoken the way that Ryu can.
Yeah, you cannot. You do need a plan to get it back. Your opponent will probably try to stop you from just getting it back trivially.
Okay. So if I put Tiny Lobelia down, am I more hoping to? I'm getting both anyway. It doesn't actually matter in practice. But am I planning to put Tiny Lobelia down in order to do damage rather than to get Tiny Lobelia back most of the time?
Kind of 50-50. The thing is, this is a really nice boost as well.
Oh, of course. Okay. All right. So I see. So even if I don't get Tiny Lobelia in order to attack with it back, having access to this boost after I've already played the attack means I don't really have to choose between the two.
Yeah,
I might have to choose in the short term. I might have to choose.
In the short term, yep.
Yeah.
And in the long term too, just because it isn't common. Like in an average ritual game, maybe I'll place like 4 or 5 lightning rods, and maybe I'll pop like 2 or 3 of them, which means 2 or 3 of the lightning rods are just on the board for the rest of the game after I place them.
Right.
So I might just play this Tiny Lobelia and never get it back.
Okay.
That can certainly happen.
Okay, sure. But so just remember that when I'm recurring them, I might be recurring it for the boost if I really need the boost rather than the attack if I really need the attack. And because the attack isn't really conducive to projectile spam, maybe I'm going to be playing it to get the boost back more frequently.
Maybe it's a situational thing for sure, because this is your reliable long range projectile. In some matchups where you want that, that's what you'll prefer.
Okay.
The reason I am sort of leaning towards you're more likely to get the boost back is I find that the time that I'm successfully popping lightning rods is often when I'm exceeded, and when you pop a lightning rod when you're exceeded, you're drawing a card that you may now play as a boost from your hand as your overdrive, and this is a really good boost to play during your overdrive.
Oh, okay. So this is a speaking of combos, right? This is a combo that goes from board to hand to boost
To boost
area,
area. Yep.
potentially kind of like all, maybe not entirely unreactively unless they strike into me, but pretty close sometimes.
Yep.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
that's
that
why boost is a little more notable as what you're recurring the card for. Yeah.
okay.
Because
And shall we be
and
explicit and talk about the boost, or is there more stuff to say about Tiny Lobelia first?
yeah, let's talk about the boost, but let me just finish that thought. This
Yeah.
is also going to be the case for various other things that you place as lightning rods. Like the attacks are good. You certainly do value the ability to recur attacks, but again, like when you are successfully breaking your lightning rods when you're triggering them, that's often because you're in like a relatively advantaged state. You're able to maneuver the opponent into that position, and
Right.
then a lot of the times, boost is what you want to do to maintain your advantage. Like again, in the most like trivial case, you're exceeded. You're going to play a boost. You might as well get like this or fierce or
Right.
light back.
You're going to play a boost, and you are going to play a boost at a time that you're most likely to be able to more easily break your lightning rods anyway.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. That synergy kind of makes a case for itself pretty easily. I see. And otherwise, if I'm going to recur it as an attack, it might be for extra gauge, right?
Yep.
Having something that adds the top of my discard pile to my gauge could be just useful for force reasons too.
Yep.
Okay.
Um. So yeah, very case by case, very flexible. But yeah, this boost. This is a pretty good boost. It's a combo tool, I think, more than something you boost in neutral, because it's only one speed and it has a hit effect. So you do want to like connect a strike after you land this.
Right.
And one speed is good. Like you will boost this in neutral because spoiler for some of your other boosts, this is a boost that you can boost in neutral fairly easily. But it's definitely at its best when you have like a setup that you're threatening when you boost it.
Okay. So can do we have the knowledge yet to know what those setups are? Or do they involve cards we haven't really talked about yet?
I mean, it could be as simple as just like it does to some extent involve cards we haven't talked about, but like just like +1 speed boosts tend to be at their best when you don't expect your opponent to strike into you immediately, and on your next turn, you'll get to strike with +1 speed and gain advantage in this case.
Right.
So maybe you have like an EX spike in hand, or your opponent's like low on hand size, or something that makes this a little better than normal.
Okay.
But this is also just a boost you can play in neutral, and sometimes you have to because, again, your other boosts, some of them are a little more niche.
Right. And as mentioned, it like so one of the other combo tools that we could use it for is our exceed mode. When we have the ability to uh put this boost down and now it already is our turn. We didn't even have to worry about our opponent passing turn in the first place. We can play whatever setup we have right now.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay. So you would play this in neutral when you have a reason to believe that you could like mimic the effects of your exceed mode's overdrive without actually having to use it. If your opponent needs to spend the turn prepping, for example.
Yep, something like that would make it better. You
Okay.
also this combines well with our like above curve option. Like you boost this in neutral. This is really above curve now,
Yep.
and you can just defend safely with it.
Right. And it doesn't go away. So because
Yep.
again, I looked ahead and saw the sustain one of your continuous boost clauses on there.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. Okay.
The other thing that's nice with this boost is this ultra, because this ultra just gives us really flexible positioning afterwards. So advantage combines really well with after advance or retreat up to 2, it turns out.
Sure. Okay. And this all in most board states that we're going to be playing it is also going to be some amount of above curve.
Yep.
Okay. Because it hits lightning rods and the lightning rods could be farther than range 1 from us.
Yeah, you definitely would want to get advantage out of this boost, but if your opponent strikes into you and you defend with something above curve and you draw 1, you're perfectly happy with that as well.
Right. Okay. So I mean, in a situation where we have the whirlwind in our hand, they strike into us, we respond with the whirlwind, we sustain it. When we hit, we draw 1, and then it's still in our hand, and then we can maybe gain advantage on the next strike.
Yep. Yep.
Okay. Makes sense. Okay.
So yeah, good card, good boost. Like I was saying, do like bear in mind that if you don't have some kind of advantage, like consider just prepping instead of boosting this if you really are not getting what you need to out of it at the moment.
Right. In terms of evaluating Tiny Lobelia versus its boost, um, it seems like obviously both are make strong cases for themselves. We'll use them both as we need them. And I don't even know because Rachel is so flexible. Like I'm not even sure that we can find like uh, 60% of the time Lobelia, 40% of the time boost or something like that. Obviously force some amount of time too. But like, is there any sort of guidance about when you would use one or the other? Uh, do they have like
Yeah.
non-overlapping board states? Like obviously Lobelia is not going to be helpful here.
Yeah, it makes sense. So yes, firstly, like it's a projectile. You can only play it when projectiles are relevant. That's one big consideration. It's a
Right.
really good projectile, so if it is relevant, you probably do want to play it. And then that thing we were talking about with like when you get your lightning rods back, it's probably because you're doing something scary at that moment, like exceeding or maybe playing like an altar or something. I like striking with this because it's a lightning rod that's very good to get back in those situations. And just like you don't have that many sources of lightning rods, this is a very reliable source of a lightning rod.
Okay.
So in general, I'll strike with this.
Okay. And I guess the other thing that I'm not really considering explicitly is for all of the things where it's like, well, what board state would be conducive to playing this versus playing this? I'm Rachel. I can
Yes, you
be,
can.
I can be, if I'm here or if I'm here and I need to throw a projectile, I can just do that if I have the force. I can be in this position and just
Yep,
throw Lobelia. Okay.
exactly. And this is your guarded projectile in your kit. So in matchups where that's relevant, this is a good card
Right.
to hold on to for
Right.
that reason.
And then by the same token, if I'm in this position and I have a setup that involves initiative in some way,
Yeah, if you want to just like go here and boost whirl and boost this and threaten like
right.
whirlwind and or spike or something.
So this kind of flexibility also makes Rachel like very heuristic resistant because I can just like pick my spot and I have to decide whether the
Yes.
value, like I can't let the situation dictate for myself what I'm going to do because I can dictate the situation so freely.
Yes, though, like of course there's a tax on your ability to
Right.
actually do
Yeah.
that.
Freely with a big asterisk. Actually very expensively, but I can do it.
Yep.
Okay.
We'll get back to this when we talk about openers, but this also is a card which rewards you for using your ability to retreat, for instance, because like, okay, I'm going to spend 2 force, put this in my discard, hit with this card. Oh hey, look at this altar in my discard. It's my gauge now.
Right.
So
Right. Okay.
yeah. So yeah,
That
this
all
was a
makes
little
sense.
refund on striking with the attack in those situations.
Right. Okay.
Um Cool. Flying Lobelia. Here is one of our other sources of lightning rods. This is a really good projectile. It's a force special. It is worth it. It hurts because it's a force special, but it's worth it.
Right. This
Um,
looks like Tiger Shot to me.
yep.
Okay.
Pretty similar. Yeah. It's a speed 5 like Tiger Shot is when it's face up, except this one doesn't have to be face up for that property, and
Right.
it pushes the opponent. So it is actually a perfectly like a very strong range free option, as a matter of
Yeah.
fact.
There's no normals on offense. There's no normals that beat this, right? When
Yep.
you're initiating with Flying Lobelia, there's no normals that beat this.
Yep.
Okay.
And this one also has push 1 on it, which is nice because your kit is actually, unlike Polar Knight, a little lacking in ways to move the opponent around. This is a pretty consistent way to push the opponent 1 onto a lightning rod. That's why directly behind them is the second best place for a lightning rod to be when you're striking, is because this card is basically always a threat.
Right. And it's rangy enough and it's fast enough that I can probably confirm it fairly easily in a lot of board states. So it's not unrealistic to be able to push my opponent 1 and get the lightning rod that way.
Yep. And
Okay.
there's also just like a little bit of added value of like, here's your lightning rod. I'd love to play Flying Lobelia. Or sorry, here's your lightning rod. I'd love to play Flying Lobelia. If your opponent focuses, you can't pop lightning rod, but they've also spent their focus to do nothing except stop themselves from getting pushed 1, which
Right.
is something that you're really happy about. Whatever they choose, they might have reasons to make one choice or the other, but like you're winning either way in that
Right.
exact strike.
Okay. That makes sense. So, really dominant range 3 option obviously has some utility farther out because, hey, if my lightning rod is behind them and I'm at range 4, I'm not exactly sad about playing Lobelia either or flying Lobelia either.
Yep.
It having a minimum range of 2, does that make it relevant closer up? I don't see nearly as many places where the interactions win or go in my favor as I do when I play it at 3 for
Yeah. I think
for a range 2.
partly. So yes, you would not play this at range 2 very often. I think partly it's there, so like something like a DP at range 3, like reuse close 1 on a crit DP doesn't just randomly dodge it. And also because both of these cleanup effects place lightning rods in a space in the range, so it gives you just a little bit more flexibility in where you place lightning rod afterwards.
Okay, so I hit with flying Lobelia, and if I do want to play some zone denial stuff, I could push them out to here and then say, all right, cool, lightning rod is here.
Yep, exactly.
Okay, and that could be relevant to me. Makes sense.
So again, every one of your cards that plays lightning rod works a little differently. This is the top card of your discard, which will usually be the card that you spent to pay for this as a Force special.
Right. Right.
When you're striking with EX Lobelia, I will often choose to put the second Lobelia on top of my discard because I like getting the opportunity to loop this card. But in general, when it's not EX, it's whatever you paid for it with.
Okay. And so the wisdom about putting an Ultra into my discard pile is more for
it's almost entirely for Tiny Lobelia because this one will it will put the card for itself that
right.
It's going to put in.
Right. So unless I need to recur an Ultra for some reason, and why wouldn't I just play the Ultra from my hand or something while I had it? So it's less relevant for that purpose. This is more about putting something onto the field that I might need back later. This is I would put an Ultra into my Gauge.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Because this is a card that you pay for it, in fact, you're very unlikely to place an Ultra with this one because that means you're paying 2 force.
2 force for one force cost. Sure.
Yep. So, what this will often be is you will choose between Gauge and hand because possibly you have cards in your Gauge you really want to recur.
Mm-hmm.
But you'll choose a card that you, like you said, a card that you would like to recur because you have the choice.
Right.
And
are there any particular cards that you find yourself recurring a lot, or is it just like your good cards when they're good?
Once again, cards with good boosts, so especially normals. Sometimes the other, like both of these cards, because you don't have that many fireballs, so like getting them back can be good.
Right.
Not for flying abilities, we just talked about how it's 2 force, but like 2 force is great to recur for other ways of recurring cards.
Okay.
But really, I would lean towards like a normal that's going to do something relevant for me later when I get it back.
Okay, and I should if what I'm hoping to do is recur a boost, it makes a lot more sense to me to recur from Gauge because I just have the boost in my hand. I can play it from my hand if I need to. So am I kind of
no?
Okay,
kind of. But Gauge is also like more valuable than force, so like spending
right.
force from hand might be a more natural choice than spending force from Gauge. Depends. That's also very contextual.
Right. I guess the other part of this is that presumably I'm spending the force in order to play Flying Lobelia when Flying Lobelia is good. So
exactly.
So the upside in addition to that is I get something that I would like to that might be relevant later back. But
you're making the choice to pay the force to play this card because this card is good.
In order to play Lobelia when it is good. Okay, that makes more sense to me.
So the primary consideration is usually like what force can I afford to spend, and the secondary consideration is what card would I like to recur.
Right. So I might be spending the block because it's the least valuable thing in my hand right now to pay for Lobelia, and then I have a block as a lightning rod, and it's like, well, maybe I can use the parry later or something if I get it back.
Yep, or it's Soulless Force. Yep.
Right. Okay, that makes sense.
So, and this is probably the most niche card in your deck is the boost on this. Every other card, I think there are lots of reasons to use lots of the time. I think the boost on this is pretty much like a trick shot thing. There are some combos you can do with it, but there's always counterplay to those combos.
Right.
Like, you see this before push 1 or 2, and one of the things that you think of probably is Spike at range 1. Well, both Focus and Grasp beat that range 1 Spike still, because Grasp pushes you here, and you are obligated to push at least 1.
Right. So outside of like literally you are in the corner, that Grasp play probably would not work.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, that Spike play probably wouldn't work. The Grasp would beat you.
Yep, and Focus will just always beat you when you're relying on this card for range.
Right, and Focus is also famously good at range 1 anyway. So, like, okay.
So there's some combos, especially like any boost gets a little more appealing when you just boost it right away and immediately start doing stuff with it.
Right.
But this is also a force boost on a card, which is quite good. So at first order approximation, you just don't boost this.
Okay.
There are some states where you could, but yeah, as a high level, just don't boost this.
Right. Makes sense. So find the opportunities where you can if you need to, but most of the time, Flying Lodelia is what you're looking to do out of this card anyway.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Okay.
And then the last card that places boost, this one has the boost on it, places lightning rods. This is Spike Drop.
Okay.
But we'll talk about the attack first, and the attack does not place lightning rod. This can be your end game. This is like this is one of your really scary combo payoffs, because this says ignore armor and it can hit for like up to 5 base damage, even more with boosts. This card has lots of different modes to it, because you can play like Fierce, and now this is Tiger Driver. It's 7 power. Ignore armor in this case.
Yeah. Range 1 to 2
Yep.
Tiger Driver. Okay.
With ignore armor.
Yeah, with ignore armor that doesn't have. We keep finding better things to talk about it with. It also doesn't have a force cost.
Yep.
Okay.
You can play it with light. Now it's a DP that does 5 damage and ignores armor.
That's Inferno Divider. That's Inferno Divider that works on defense and doesn't cost a force.
And ignores armor. Yep.
Yeah, that ignores armor. Okay. So it's super weird that we keep, like, Rachel, the most expensive character, we keep finding card comparisons to force specials.
Well, you are paying the force up front. You're paying the boost and the turn.
True. Okay, that makes sense.
And defend is another good one, because like defend Spike Drop in this board state is just going to hit for 5 IA. Like, it could be crossed out of, but it can't be grasped anymore. It can't be assaulted.
And if they cross out on you in many situations, that's actually okay for you, because they've cornered you already and you'd like to have more board to work with, and you're pretty good at range.
Yep. So that's that's completely tolerable in this case.
Okay.
And initiative. Initiative is a really big one. This is the combo with this card that we didn't get to yet. This is on curve, ignore armor, like gains advantage. This is like Axe Kick at this point.
Yeah, it is. And it's Axe Kick that you can't really easily boost further, because this was the boost that kind of turned it into Axe Kick. But Axe Kick on its own is pretty good, and now it gains advantage.
And all of these things we talked about, well, you have close or retreat up to 2 and then play them. So like, you can't get away from these if you want to. This is why it's such a reliable endgame tool. Is like, there's no space on the board, especially with lightning rods down that you can still feed flight to. There's just no space on the board that you can't get hit by Spike Drop.
Right. Okay. So in Exceed mode, I can do all this unreactively, and there is legitimately nothing that they can do about it. But outside of Exceed mode, if I'm not trying for that extremely committal, expensive payout, if they just don't have answers to a specific combo, or they need to reload for a turn or something, if I have a Spike Drop up and a Lightning Rod nearby, putting down initiative basically just is like a potential game-ending threat that they need to deal with right now.
Yep.
Okay.
So yeah, this is just any boost basically will make this card good. I say that the couple of character boosts that we haven't really talked about yet, and the one that I said don't really boost ever, don't really synergize with it. But
would you ever play it unboosted?
Especially EX, because then it's on curve again. EX to 4 damage to win the game. Even not EX, just 3 damage ignoring armor, win the game.
If
any
they
card
have
that ignore armor,
if life totals are that low, then absolutely go for it. Otherwise, it's a combo tool that you'd rather save for combos.
Yep.
Okay.
And EX is a combo, just to make that explicit.
Totally makes sense. Okay.
But yeah, this card is a lot stronger when it's threatening lethal. Like, those boosts, especially like Fierce, just makes it like a threat on its own. Like, they have to think about part of the mix-up, but its power number is a little low a lot of the time. So like, it will just, even if you boost this light or defend, it will trade well until their focus, but it will just trade until their focus.
Right. So you are hoping to make use of this as a way to kill the opponent at a point where trading doesn't matter anymore.
Yep.
Okay.
So yeah, luckily it has a really flexible boost on it, because this is the other way to get a lightning rod. This one works differently from the other two, of course. You choose any card in your discard and you place it as lightning rod anywhere. So you do still have to preserve discard order, but you just get to pick whichever card you want.
Right. Okay.
And this is the card that you actually really get to do the like, what card do I want as a lightning rod choice?
Right.
Because Tiny Abelia always places itself. Flying Abelia, you're probably just deciding based on what you can afford to spend. This is the card that you actually get to just see, okay, what do I want? And again, the answers are like mostly like these, sometimes these, and quite often like these.
Yep.
grasp,
Good
focus, and sweep.
things with good boosts and solid attacks on them.
Yep. So, yeah.
Okay.
And Q-Force, they boost solid attacks. Yep.
In terms of Spike Drop versus Lotus Barrel, again, the Rachel life outside of Flying Lobelia, it sounds like, is going to be we're going to use both sides of this whenever we need to because they're both going to be really useful. Spike Drop
but
seems
without
a lot.
Boost setup, without a boost setup, Spike Drop is much more of a late game card, and Lotus Barrel is much more of an early game card. With boosts, that calculus changes. Like if you can threaten like a Fierce Spike Drop, absolutely that is good anytime.
Sure. Do I kind of need to preserve one Spike Drop for the end of the game, or if I need to, could I just recur 2 cards with Lotus Barrel and win the game that way?
You could just recur 2 cards. Like you can take big CCs if you want to draw for your deck if you really need to. Like you don't have a problem. Rachel games go fairly long, so you probably will get a chance to reshuffle.
Okay. So I might need to keep my 4th Spike Drop for
yeah.
Okay. Maybe I can find a way
you
to recur.
You might even have to keep your 3rd Spike Drop because like that is a Rachel endgame that I go for fairly often. Is like I will just naturally draw my both my Spike Drops, my second run through of the deck, and then that'll be like 4 damage, and I'll win the game.
Okay, makes sense. So great attack, especially for end games and for combos. Very, very flexible recursion boost. Doesn't really seem to have a huge point in the very early game where I don't have a discard pile and I don't have a combo setup.
Yep.
Okay. So maybe don't like hard mulligan for this, but it's going to be useful all game after that. Okay, makes sense. Okay.
Okay, so those are our ways of getting lightning rods, and like we mentioned, there aren't that many. So that's why I say like maybe like 4 or 5 lightning rods a game, maybe it's like 6. Is you'll probably like boost 1 of these, boost 2 of these, maybe play like 2 or 3 of these, and that's probably it.
Right.
So, here is our next special. This is Whirlwind. This is our above curve option. It is a whirl, the 2 to 3 speed 6. It's kind of like the new classic whirl because it turns out Tidal Whirl, the one that pushes or pulls 1, is really messed up.
Yeah, what if not push or pull 1? What if Whirlwind plus Flying Lobelia all on 1 card? Yeah. Where you're also pushing out of range if you need to. Okay, so this is just a regular old above curve at 3.
Yep. The hit effect matters quite a lot because this is one of the things about like, oh, I'm going to boost and do some aggression is like your opponent could strike into you and then you lose the boost and then you're back to where you were. Right. This is basically like a custom designed to solve that problem. Like, okay, I'll boost light, and if you strike into me, it's fairly telegraphed I'll defend with Whirl because I want to preserve my boost, but like, that's fine. If I really have to, I can just afford to like you play sweep and I play Whirlwind and I trade down and next turn I do something with my boost and play.
Right. So in order to diffuse that, they're probably hoping to strike in a way that actually like not in order to diffuse that, not only would they have to deal with Whirlwind, they would also have to deal with they'd also have to land in a position that made light less valuable. Yeah. But you're Rachel.
Or sweep the card out of your hand. Sweep is the answer, basically.
Is the answer. Okay.
Yeah. But that's always a mix-up, right? Because if your opponent boosts Fierce or Light and you initiate sweep into that, there are ways that can go badly wrong for you.
Definitely. And also, I mean, like you now you can throw a defensive spike into that telegraphed sweep, and the defensive spike is all with that light in play is also just on curve, which is pretty good.
Yep.
Okay.
So this is especially good with Fierce and Initiative because those are like Fierce is good because Fierce sort of solves they'll just sweep you problem. Is like, okay, they sweep you, maybe they even do get your follow-up out of your hand, but you barely traded down and it's your turn again and you still have Fierce in play.
Right.
So this really likes Fierce. It likes Initiative a fair bit just because this is a way to get an advantage chain on a character that doesn't have that many sources of advantage.
Okay.
And advantage chains are strong. So yeah, this is your defensive tool at range 2 to 3, especially 3. It's quite telegraphed. Your opponent likely is considering how to beat it. It's also a pretty good mix-up with Flying Lobelia because the things that beat this are like Spike and Sweep, and this beats both Spike and Sweep.
Right. Okay. And so if we're doing it defensively at range 3, we are losing the above curve, or the on curve kind of beats everything of Flying Lobelia, so we have to watch out for Assault. But it's a mix-up. We're playing Exceed. That's how the game works.
Yep.
Okay. Makes sense.
So yeah, This is a good defensive tool. The one weakness of it is it's quite telegraphed. Like when you're Rachel at range 3 and you place a boost, your opponent's like, okay, is Whirlwind going to be a problem for what I'm planning to do?
Right. And with the
Um,
right boost, I mean, above curve 5 damage deals with Tatsus.
Deals
Uh,
with Spike. Yep,
yeah,
as well.
there's a lot of things that makes very problematic. And sweep, like I still do have a defensive sweep or even a defensive dive, and I'll be totally fine to play that instead of the whirlwind
Yep.
if I have light up. I mean,
Yeah, or like Fierce, or yeah.
right,
Just
right,
so yeah. This boost is okay. This has a property a couple of your boosts have, which is it draws one when you boost it. It's the first one of those,
mm,
which is nice because this boost is a little niche. Probably it's an okay boost. This is what I was talking about earlier when I'm like, this is a boost you can just play a neutral. This boost has the problem of not only is it a boost that just gives you power and push and pull, like it doesn't let you confirm your attacks at all.
right,
It's an attack boost that doesn't let you confirm your attacks and lives in a space, so your opponent can just like walk away from it, and then it's not threatening anymore.
right.
Um, so that's why it draws you a card is like a refund for it being a little low impact, or not impact's not the right word because it is high impact when it matters. A little low consistency, I guess.
Right. Of variable quality depending on the board state in a way that initiative really isn't.
Yep.
Okay.
But nice thing about this boost, this has the push or pull one. So that's good for your lightning rods in two ways. Firstly, you get the push or pull, so you can push or pull onto lightning rods. And second, it's a May. So you, unlike like Grasp doesn't pop a lightning rod here.
Right.
You can pop a lightning rod here with Whirlwind because you don't have to push or pull.
Right.
Heck, you can Grasp and Whirlwind, and you can push and then pull and put the background lightning rod. So
Oh,
it
true.
just,
Yeah, okay.
yeah,
Okay.
makes that a little more flexible.
So in terms of use cases, is this another one where it's like most of the time I can kind of ignore this the way that I can ignore Gust of Wind? Or am I
No, Gust of Wind is genuinely like if you first order approximation, just never boost this card.
okay.
This card is like you will boost this, but you're not super thrilled about it
Okay.
most of the time.
Okay. So what are some situations where I would prefer to boost it?
This is a power boost at range 1. That's already pretty good a lot of the time. This forms a fairly real mix-up with like your opponent is you don't have a lightning rod or anything, but you just put this under them. Now, if your opponent plays a sweep, your sweep beats it if you initiate. If your opponent plays like anything that Grasp beats that. If your opponent plays focus, that's actually is enough power for Spike Drop to beat the focus. Because
Sure.
Spike Drop is hitting for 6.
Okay.
So it is like a real this is a range 1 mix-up, which is something Rachel does not naturally have a very good version of. Rachel at range 1 needs boosts in play to threaten slows consistently. Or the ability to cross out, which is
Right.
another reason we like
Yeah.
Longside.
Hence we want alongside of the board. Totally. Okay. So playing it at range 1 in order to specifically call out my opponent's slows is a solid option. Obviously, when lightning rods are in play, having something that will allow me to confirm a lightning rod is cool, but this is not something that I can like I can confirm a lightning rod in that I can push somebody onto it, but it doesn't actually help me do it doesn't get to my hit effect any more consistently because I don't have any bonus speed or anything.
Yep, exactly.
Okay.
And then, um, like I said, I mentioned earlier, like this does mostly avoid lightning rod jank of like you can't hit them with grasp or whatever. You do still have to choose if you have like two spaces of lightning rods, which lightning rod you're going to take back because the hit
Right.
effect is still before the after.
Right.
But
Okay.
that's fine.
And then obviously in Exceed mode, the exact same thing we've said for all of the other continuous boosts so far pretty much is all right, I put it into play and now I can act on it immediately. If I
Yes, this one
do
gets a lot better with that.
Okay.
Because now the problem with these boosts that don't let you confirm them is if your opponent just does something on their turn, the boost isn't really helping you. But if you can just strike on curve with this, then the fact that it isn't itself helping you confirm your attack isn't as big of a problem anymore.
Right.
Your opponent doesn't have an opportunity to leave the space, which is good. And this draw one on your boost is actually, I think, partly there to make your exceed mode a little more affordable because here's a way to get a rebate on your boost while you're exceeding.
Okay. So is a useful heuristic then like in on front side, I probably prefer Whirlwind slightly to its boost. In Exceed mode, the boost is probably stronger than Whirlwind.
Probably, though Whirlwind is still good on Exceed side, even so.
Okay.
The reason the this is where we come into the like what range do you expect to be at? Because this boost is a boost which is good primarily at range 1, and this attack is an attack which is good primarily at range 3.
Sure.
So that's what I'm actually going to be deciding based on a lot of the time is like what range do I think we're going to spend the immediate future at?
Okay. That
Or
makes
the rest
sense.
of the game in general, depending.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Okay. And I guess to just to be complete, is the reason that Whirlwind is particularly strong in Exceed mode is because it turns out that playing boosts and sustaining boosts sort of
Yep.
synergize pretty well together.
Yep. And also you do still need to defend yourself even in Exceed mode sometimes. But yeah,
Sure.
both
Okay.
both halves of that.
Makes sense. All right. So pretty solid card all around then.
Yep.
Okay.
And here's your last special, and this one is last. These three were first because they are your lightning rods, and this one was after them because it's pretty good. This one's last because this is the easiest special for you to use as force.
Okay.
Once again, all of your cards will be force, every single one, depending on what you need to do. But this card is the most replaceable. Because this is kind of a bad focus like. And sometimes you need a bad focus like. Like a bad focus like is not inherently a bad thing for a card to be.
Yeah. Focus is a pretty good card. There's been
Exactly.
plenty of lessons where I'm like, hey, this is slightly worse sweep, and it turns out that's one of the best cards in the character's deck because sweep is really good. Focus is also just
Yep.
very good.
This is technically a side grade to focus, but it's mostly a downgrade.
Yeah.
Because this loses to grasp. It loses to grasp in a way you don't mind that much because being grasped to range 3 is like, okay, now I'm at the range that I like.
Right.
But you still lose to grasp and you don't even get the card draw. Notably, this is a card that you can play when you're cornered because now grasp no longer beats it, which is nice.
Right.
But yeah, this is a bad focus. Like the one thing that it has over focus is sometimes the fact that a 7 printed guard matters. Like this actually will survive like an EX axe kick or something,
Oh,
which
true.
comes
Yeah.
up.
So most of the time, you'd prefer having 2 armor because 2 armor is great. But if they're
Yep.
ignoring armor, then 7 guard is just a strict upgrade.
Yep.
Okay.
So yeah, this is again your easiest special to give up as force, but this card is important. This is what makes your melee game pretty decent is because just like having extra slow is really good, it turns out.
Yeah.
Like a lot of characters that do zoning just don't have another slow. Like New, for instance, New just doesn't get a slow that isn't normal.
Right.
This is why Rachel's like a little more in the Sagat school of that type of character, where like you, unlike New, where you really want to be at range and you're really dominant at range, you're comfortable and strong at range, but you are probably going to spend a lot of the game up close, and you're fine with that. You have tools to work up close.
Okay. So this is your like not
This
particularly
is your Tiger
impressive.
Uppercut, basically. Like it's not.
Sure.
It's kind of different than Tiger Uppercut in a couple of ways, but it has the same. It even has the same property of like if you're in the corner, grasp no longer beats it. It's
Right.
just like a button that you press and it hopefully does what you want out of a slow.
Sure. Yeah. And I mean, like you're using it as a close range trading tool, and you're never going to be Zangief, you're never going to be Potemkin. That's not the character you failed to do that at character select. But the game is going to like Exceed trends towards range 1 anyway. There's lots of cards that move you there. You're going to fight some amount of time there. On your turn, maybe you can back up with your character ability, but your opponent's going to be punching you at range 1 sometimes, and having something that can respond with is just going to be helpful.
Yep.
Okay.
And then this boost. This is kind of an interesting card because both this card and this boost want you to be at range 1. Because this boost is the really be annoying boost. Your opponent like corners you at range 1 and says, haha, I cornered you, you're Rachel, you can't do anything, you just boost us under them. And now every turn that they end up in this space, they take 1 damage, and it just continues until they leave the space.
Right.
So immediately they're like, do I like cross out and waste all that effort cornering Rachel? Or do I just take like bad trades because we both play slows and Rachel gets +1 value out of hers?
Right. And how many turns am I willing to let this go on before I actually just leave her alone for a second?
Yep. So this is kind of an interesting trade-off a lot of the time of like, do I want to hold this card to play at range 1 or boost this card at range 1? I think that kind of comes down to, well, first off, like if you boost it, do you have another option you want to play? Because like this boost does not work with grasp. This only works with cross and slows,
Right.
for instance.
Right.
And the other thing it comes down to is like how long do I think I'm going to be at range 1? Because I'm just going to be there one strike. I might as well just play the electric chair. But if
Okay.
I'm cornered like this, and my opponent seems pretty intent on keeping me in the corner, or like my hand is full of slows, and I'm like, I'm fine with being in the corner right now,
Right.
actually.
So if
Then
I have an escape option available to me, if I have Sylphid Flight, if I have Run, and I'm ready
and
to
you want
leave,
to use it, yeah.
yeah, and I'm ready to leave right now for other reasons. I have things to do at range. Uh, Electric Chair is a fine stopgap. Otherwise, if I'm gonna be sticking around here for a while, then uh, cleanup damage is just like you said, is annoying.
Yep.
Okay.
And this is a range 1 boost just because it's like a lightning rod, but worse in a lot of ways at longer ranges. Like if I have a lightning rod under Ryu, he probably moves in, but if he doesn't, I can like stun him with a grasp maybe. If I have this under Ryu, he wants to, he can move in, and this is like soft being relevant.
Right.
And it goes away after the strike. And if he just decides to throw Hadouken, ignoring this, I still don't get to stun him. He still hits me with the Hadouken and then takes the 1 damage afterwards.
Right. Yeah. The after versus cleanup timing actually matters a lot here because I can't use it to outspeed my opponent.
So this is mostly something you'll boost at range 1 just because that's where the range where people get stuck at range 1. Like people don't really get stuck in a specific other board state that often.
Right. Sure. They have more ability to move around when they're not at range 1.
The other things, this is one of the boosts that draws 1 when you place it, which again is just like a nice little refund when you're in Exceed. This is not a boost I'm not excited to play when I'm in Exceed because it's not like transformative the way that like Fierce or Light or Initiative are.
Right.
But
I
if
mean,
you
I
have
guess
like a plan for your Exceed where you're like, okay, I'm going to Exceed and I'm just going to like play Assault, play Sweep, or something.
Right.
And this boost is going to be there the whole time, it could be worth it.
Okay. And also, I mean, if all you need out of it is something to make Spike Drop deal 5 damage, this is a continuous boost.
Yep.
And if you're in Exceed mode and you are trying to hit with this Spike Drop right now, well, I mean, you'll take it, and it's not
and
Fierce,
hopefully
it's
draw
not
something
Light.
better for next turn or something.
Definitely. Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah. This is a funny boost in a couple ways. Like in the fighting game, she has like a cloud of bats that just sits in place and drains your health if you're sitting in it.
Right.
Which is what this boost is.
Okay.
And unlike most boosts that's the same self-storing cleanup, this doesn't care about if you get stunned. Like no matter what happens in the strike, as long as the opponent's on the space, it stays around.
Right.
Which is cool.
So pretty consistent in that way. All right, cool.
So and here, okay.
So those are all of our specials. We have really, other than Electric Chair, we've really yet to find any cards that aren't like solid or better. But they aren't. None of them are like game winning on their own. So we're not looking to establish a range and throw Hadouken or Low Tiger Shot over and over again. These are have many variable applications that we are going to need to use to put together a game plan over the course of a game rather than just abuse the power of them.
The one that's like the most mashable stuff is like, if I'm out of range for projectile hits, I can just throw projectiles. If I'm defending at range 3, I can just throw Whirlwind. If I'm defending at range 1, I can just throw Electric Chair.
Okay, sure.
But no, like you said, none of them are like a game plan. They're all just like,
they're things I can do at ranges.
Relatively good card. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So yeah, and I guess the other part of that is we've already talked about one thing that could be a game plan, and often the other things that are a game plan is building up to throw an Ultra. Shall we move on to our other gauge payouts?
Yep, these are 2-force. And they're also good cards, but they're also 2-force.
They sure are 2-force, and we can use that to back up or move forward or many other things, I'm sure.
Yes, but do keep in mind, these are always 2-force. It's like, change cards is another thing you like a lot, because as you noticed earlier, you don't have a lot of ways to draw. So as well as spending force to move around, spending it to change cards is a big deal, and Ultras are efficient ways to change cards.
Right.
But yeah, these are also good cards, unfortunately for us. So we actually have to make tough choices about them.
Okay.
So this is your 2-gauge Ultra, Baton Lily. It has Sylphid Flight on it. We talked about Sylphid Flight more. We'll talk about it a tiny bit more, but we did basically cover most of what I wanted to talk about for the boost.
Right.
But this is your cheap Ultra that hits hard. This is with 1 lightning rod in the opponent's face. This is a 6 power, 6 speed at range, whatever range they are.
At range, yes, as long as they're on top of it.
Yep, as long as they're on top of it, is doing a lot of work though. This is not like range yes the way that I don't know
Inevitability
cards. Oh yeah, sure. Inevitability is a good
Yeah.
one too.
Oh,
This
you were
is
talking about
range.
the full board sweep that Enchantress
Yeah,
has? Yeah.
yeah, something like that. It's not range in that way. It's range. If I want to play this, it's going to work on that turn.
Yeah.
Um, so this is a really good ultra. This usually gives you just like everything you want when you play it. The problem is it's not range. Yes, you only get certain opportunities to play it.
Right.
But this is like, I don't know, Moonsong is a good card. This is sort of Moonsong for 2 gauge.
Yeah. Yeah, it
Um,
doesn't gain advantage, but you will absolutely take uh
6 damage,
six.
possibly at range 3 at speed 6.
Sure. Yeah,
Um,
that's quite good.
and it also has flexible movement on it, so you can be, after you play it, anywhere from here to here, for instance. It gives you the recursion of the card that you just got back with Lightning Rod, probably. And it can have advantage if you really wanted to. This is another card that goes particularly well with this boost, just
Okay.
because advantage and flexible movement is a good combination.
Sure. Yeah, you being able to choose where you are and then capitalize on it immediately is just a very strong effect. So
Yep.
so I only really need one lightning rod to make Bid Maiden Lily like a super relevant threat that my opponent has to respect and deal with. But
Yep.
it
But it could hit
seems
the
like
9 if you had 2, or 12 if you had 3, if you wanted to.
yeah, yeah. So it seems like the incentive here is to stack lightning rods in order to cash out with this, but I don't really need to make it good. It's still just
Yep.
it's already just a very strong card that I can just play when I have a lightning rod in the right spot for it.
Yep.
Okay.
You can, even if you are desperate, play it at range 1. It's not a very good card in this case, but it does still have the advanced retreat up to 2, which can matter.
Right.
Um, you can, if you're desperate, play it at range like here. Ryu is throwing Metsu Hadouken at me. No, he's not.
Right. Sure. Yeah. Use it as a dodge. The after movement is going to be helpful.
Yep. These are both more niche uses for it. You would much prefer to play it when it gets the full value of at least one lightning rod.
Right.
But it's a very flexible card.
Okay.
One of the things that like cemented my mind, the impression of Rachel as like a character that's like, oh wait, you forget, you make like a small mistake and you lose. Is I was so excited to land this card one game, I forgot it had the after effect, and I had to spend a force to move. And then later in that game, I really wanted one more force, and I lost the game. But I
Yeah.
could have just used the after effect to move, and I would have had that one force, and I would have won.
Yep.
So this is just a card that gives you a lot of value. Um, the opponent can deny it by not being on a lightning rod. That's its biggest problem.
Right. And so in Exceed mode, when you have the ability to control your opponent and get them on lightning rods much more consistently, that problem disappears. But now have two
Now
gauge
it's
sources
5 gauge.
competing with each
Yes.
other. Yeah.
Yes, this is a good combination if you Exceed mode. The problem is, another good combination if you Exceed mode is spending your gauge's force so you can preserve cards in hand for your overdrive to play
For your
boosts.
overdrive, sure. Okay. So this is a possibility, and if that's the situation that I'm trying to cash out on, that's awesome. But I have other things I could be doing both with my gauge and with the honestly, and with Sylphid Flight, right? Like
Yep,
the
exactly.
boost itself is really strong.
Unlike Polar Knight, though, there are more cases. I still wouldn't say there are a lot of cases, but there are more cases as Rachel where you might not immediately pop a lightning rod, and this card is probably a lot of that. Like if you grasp Ryu onto a lightning rod and you plan to immediately play this card, then yeah, leave lightning rod in place and immediately play this card, for
Right. Okay.
instance.
Okay. That makes sense.
Um, So yeah, Sylphie Flight. This boost is huge. It's really expensive because it's free force up front, and if you need to move even more flexibly than that with your UA afterwards, or your innate ability, then you have to spend like 4 or 5 force potentially. But it just says you can be anywhere you want, basically,
Right. And
dependent
and
on having lightning rods.
right.
That's
And
the
the
other reason, going back to this and this, that we want to lead with like this attack and this boost, is if you don't do that, sometimes you will get into states where you just don't have enough lightning rods on the board to do what you want to do.
right. And so among the things that you can do with lightning rods, cash out with damage, recur cards, all that stuff, but also having at least one lightning rod in a relevant place just means that I can teleport to
Yeah.
it whenever I want, and that's always going to be helpful to me.
Yep. And both sides of this card, really. Having more lightning rods around make it more likely you can play this quite strong attack.
Definitely. Okay. That makes sense. So in order to facilitate this later game plan, starting the game out by stacking the board with some lightning rods is just good practice.
Yep.
Okay, makes sense.
This is another reason why it's better to have lightning rods in kind of like, I don't know, like the middle, like 5 spaces, maybe the middle 7. It's just your opponent is more likely to end up on those spaces, so this is more likely to be threatening on those spaces as well as the like
Sure.
teleporting around and everything
They'll
else.
have to at least walk through them to get to me, if nothing else.
Yep.
Okay.
So, yeah, this is the altar I want to play. Sorry, actually go back. I like all the altars. They are all strong. This is the altar that feels best when you are doing something busted with it. Like, this is the altar that has the most potential value, but it's also the most conditional. This is the altar that just always does something good. Because this is an above curve card that hits for 5 at least and draws you cards and gives you some positioning sometimes.
Those are all
So,
things, and I mean, so positioning's awesome. I see that hit draw 2, and
yep.
I've been
Yeah, this is like I
I've
think the
been
first or the second source of draw after
yeah.
the Ivy Blossom, the electric
I'm
chair.
like
Yeah.
I'm other than where there was another boost that did it.
Oh yeah, these boosts and this
Yeah.
card.
But this
Yeah.
whole time I've been like a man in the desert looking for any source of card draw at all. And this one of course costs me 3 gauge, which doesn't feel great, but hopefully I'm getting value out of other things about it.
One note about the card draw though. These are card draw in a much more limited way because this costs you a force, but you can refund that force later by picking up the lightning rod.
Right.
This theoretically is drawing you a card. Like this is a instant boost that also says draw 1, as long as you always pop the lightning rod, which you won't, but
But you could.
you could.
Right. Okay.
So that's a little bit more draw. And then anything that helps you get your opponent onto a lightning rod is also like a little bit more draw by virtue of
Right.
like actually making that real.
Right. So it actually again the comparison to Polar Knight keeps making itself about like your ice spikes could be card draw if you land that 1 to 3. Again, I don't remember the name of the card,
Oh
but
yeah,
the assault
the
like with
one
the push that
the
draws you
assault like
cards.
yep.
So there is like an exchange rate between force and lightning rods, but it's going to change in value as the game moves because the positioning will change. Rachel economy and Polar Knight economy actually kind of feel they she's got a much different budget, but they use like the same currency, I guess.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
And then so like we were just saying, cards that like that you pop lightning rods are sort of economy. This is a card that gives you draw and potentially pops lightning rods. So this is just like a really nice button to press when it works.
Okay. And I think
Um
I alluded to this very briefly a while ago, but I did notice that this is after push,
Yep. So
which
unlike I think any other card in your kit, if you in situations like this, you can pop both of these lightning rods with this
right,
card, which is a big deal.
right. And then I'm hitting for 9. And
Yep.
now the if I'm in a situation like that, this is no longer an ultra that I'm like lukewarm on playing. That is a setup as good as what I would get out of Baden Baden Lily, if not better.
Yep.
Okay.
So yeah, this is I think the Bateman Lily is a card that you can kind of use whatever your game plan is as the opportunity presents itself. This is definitely like a pretty big choice you're making here. We'll get more to that with the boost, but like these both do sort of similar things for you in terms of they let you pop your lightning rods and they just hit really hard.
Yeah.
Theoretically.
Yep.
So notably the push is both optional and flexible. So you can push for you 1, 0, or 2.
Mhm.
But your close is mandatory. So if Ryu plays focus at range 4, you will always trade with the focus.
Okay.
So that's this card's big weakness, as a matter of fact. It doesn't love hitting opponent's focus, and it's also a card that the opponent might be aware of and might be wanting to play around and playing focus. So
Okay. It at range 3, it also would always trade with sweep, which doesn't feel great.
yep. Well, assuming you can't pop a lightning rod.
Right, yeah, if there's anything behind them that you could run them into, that problem disappears.
Yep.
Okay.
But yeah. Without a lightning rod, this is without a lightning rod, this is just an above curve 5 power reversal that draws you some cards.
It draws some cards on a character who really needs card draw.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is a good card. And the boost. This is a pretty niche boost. This is one that gets a lot better when you exceed.
Yeah.
Because it's basically the same thing we were talking about with this boost, where it gives you value if it works, but it doesn't do anything to confirm the value. But this
Sure,
one costs a force and an ultra.
This is super fierce.
Yes.
It's almost sometimes a little bit like +3 power, but
Yep.
+3 power on a
But
space.
on a space, yep, the opponent can just walk out of it. And this is also a little bit like a lightning rod, but it's a lightning rod that only sticks around for one strike.
For one strike, right? So if I'm passing the turn to my opponent, I'm giving them so much control over
Yep.
the outcome of that strike that I probably isn't going to be worth the force.
Yep. But hey, here's one in the boost that draws you a card when you boost it. So
Yep. So
I wonder when we're supposed to boost this.
So honestly, Rose writes notes prior to these lessons and sends them to me, and we kind of talk about a little bit about the flow of the lesson ahead of time as a peek behind the curtain. I was so excited to hear her say that she really likes the Exceed mode. And the reason I was so excited to hear that is because I had the sense that George the 13th is kind of a niche boost that gets better in the Exceed mode, and I love this boost so much because in
Yeah, he's
Blaze
just a
Blue,
little frog.
Blaze Blue, it's the greatest frog of all time. It's a goofy
Yes.
little idiot frog. Please go look up the sprite. It makes me laugh every time I see it.
Little special animations when Sylphid is being used, and it's like as the wind is blowing towards it. I believe the frog moves less than you or the opponent, so the frog is like bracing itself against the wind. Or
Yeah,
like,
he's like leaning into it. I love this frog so much.
yeah.
That doesn't have a ton to do with strategy, except that if I'm up against you and playing as Rachel, I'm going to Exceed to try to use George the 13th on you, and you can play around that if you need to.
Yeah. This is, like I was saying, this is the big trade-off between how you want to spend your gauge, because both sides of this are good, but you will probably have to pick one.
Right.
Maybe not one all game, because they're both only 3 gauge, which is low enough. You could probably do one of each in a really like long game where you get a lot of gauge and don't need to
Right.
spend much of it as force. But
Right. But certainly not all at once I'm going to be playing these.
Yep.
Okay. So the choice is frequently going to be between this and this. And this is pretty good.
Yep.
Okay.
And of course, the alternative choice to either of those, which is this is force.
Yep.
Whether or not you exceed, this can be force. Both
Right.
of these cards are great force because they get the refund with Tiny Abellia, which is a big deal. They're cards that are both a little more niche. This attack is reliable, but George gets struck in hand. This boost is useful, but not always.
All the time. If you're in a spot where you want to be, it doesn't give you anything.
Yep, and this attack is a little hard to set up sometimes.
Right.
So it's a way to get cards that don't immediately use stuff out of your hand and replace them with cards that do immediately do something. So you do have to spend these as force pretty highly.
Right. Makes sense. Okay.
And then the Astral, which we will talk about because, in my opinion, like a lot of BlazBlue Astrals, this is kind of real and kind of a meme.
Okay.
3 gauge for 12 damage is a really, really good conversion rate. And there are ways to set this up. Here is the funny way. It's just Spike again, but it hits for 12 this time.
Yeah, 12 it's not ignore armor or ignore guard, but good luck blocking it.
It doesn't need to be. Really,
yeah, good luck blocking it.
And here's the less funny but probably more realistic way. Oh, it's Spike, but hits for 12.
Right.
And if you get the 6 gauge, you can absolutely do some like nonsense setup where you like just light appears and now you're at range 3 and then you play Clownish. It's not really something to play for.
Right.
But you can do it. It's funny.
So a lot of times the mitigating factor of an Astral is not necessarily that you would not be able to land it. Especially with Rachel, I mean, she can always be at range 3 if she has the force to spend on her turn. It's more just that you wouldn't be manually reshuffling in the first place, and also have the ability to play it quickly enough before your opponent parries it out of your hand. Is that mostly where the meme part of it comes from?
Basically, it is also like these Ultras 2 force, and unlike these Ultras, it's 2 force that if they have the card blocked, like you said, they can just say discard your 2 force.
Right.
And this one could be more than 2 force. If you like burst and draw like this, it could be 4 force. It's just really hard to budget playing this card. Right. That said, I have played this card a fair bit. Like I said, in my opinion about a lot of BlazBlue Astrals, this is a very real card. It's just not the best thing to do ever, basically.
Okay. So you wouldn't manually reshuffle to get it. You would manually reshuffle when you need to manually reshuffle, and then try to find a way to use it if you can.
Yeah, I have manually reshuffled to get it, but I'm pretty sure that's not correct most of the time.
Okay,
But
but
like, it is
it is
really
awesome.
friendly card. If you like, you just boost light. What does your opponent do? Are they going to strike into you? Okay, I played Whirlwind, and now I'll play Clownish.
Right.
Like, it is real. The threat is there. The thing you are really afraid of, though, like more than anything, is just like this getting parried really sucks.
Yeah. So if
Like,
both
more
their
for
parries
you
are
than
down,
most BlazBlue characters. Even like all BlazBlue characters are pretty force sensitive, but like if Mew reshuffles and gets her Astral is like a very relevant threat, and it gets
right,
parried, but at least you spent your turn and your block to do it. As Rachel, this gets parried, and you're like, wow, I could have played Burst. I really
right,
could have played Burst.
right. Yeah, I really could have gotten some card draw out of that. So if you're up against an opponent who has run out of blocks, or if you're up against an Under Knight character, there's really scary things. 12 damage is a lot of damage. There's really scary things you can do with this. Don't ignore it. Don't pretend it doesn't exist,
Yeah,
but it probably isn't going to win you the game most of the time.
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And there is actually a little bit of micro optimization. You can spend this as force instead of bursting it. There are very occasionally reasons to do so, but probably just burst it.
Right. So it goes to your
Discard instead of
discard
sealed.
pile.
Yeah.
So now you
And
have
then
the
you can
ability
recur it in multiple ways.
to
Yeah.
get it back. That could be 2 force later on that is unparryable. It could be a way to say, hey, later on I'm going to get this back and land it when you don't have
Yep.
anything you can do about it anymore.
Yep.
Would you call that a trick play?
What do you mean by that?
So that if you can do it, that seems very threatening and very powerful. Is that a um is that something that is like are you stunting when you do that, or is that like a legitimate move you can play to try to win the game?
It's a legitimate move you can do.
Okay.
Because yeah, like like also another thing is like it gets parried. Okay, just play Tiny Lobelia and now it's back for
True.
theoretically.
Okay, yeah, it can go to your discard pile anyway. So burst sealing it is the only way that you would take it out of your discard pile.
Yep.
Okay. So the
But
reason
I
I
do
ask it
think the most likely thing you're doing with this is bursting it.
is bursting it, sure. The reason I ask is about it being a trick play is that often something that is like that cool and impressive is impractical in Exceed. So I'm glad to hear that that is like a real thing that you can try to do rather than just trying to flex on your opponent.
Yeah.
Cool.
This Astral is real. I do think, in my opinion, though I know this is not what everyone thinks, that the majority of BlazBlue Astrals do live in that space where there are real use cases for them, but they are a
Definitely.
little more niche.
Yeah, definitely. I think that the thing that I already said is from many other people's consultations on BlazBlue characters that it's like if you already reshuffled, if you needed to manually reshuffle anyway, you have it in your hand, you can probably find something to do with it. And do that,
Yep.
it'll win you the game. Otherwise, the opportunity cost of getting it there in the first place is why you aren't always gunning for it.
Yep.
Okay.
So last part of the kit breakdown is normals.
Yes.
And we'll keep this one relatively short, unlike everything else in this lesson.
Of course.
Sweep, grasp, focus. These are probably your best normals as attacks. Because grasp does the Polar Knight, like push you onto lightning rod thing.
Right.
And these are just slows that are good for you because you will often be at range 1 and need to defend with slows.
Okay.
These are your best boosts because these give you the like force efficient movement you are so desperate for, and these are just 2 really good boosts.
Right. You have lots of combos with that in your Exceed mode. You can sustain them with Whirlwind.
Yep.
They make Spike Drop stupid.
Yep. Then notice that these 2 cards are in both categories, and you will have to pick every game.
Yes. Okay. So just like with everything, and obviously these are also force. Just like with everything
these are
else.
also force.
Yeah.
I will say, like, these are force less often than most cards. But, well, I don't know. What if you want to play Flying Lobelia and you are thinking about what you want to recur,
Right.
as well as what you can afford to play? Well, these are more force in those situations.
Sure.
But yeah. So yeah, neutral, force, engage. We're done with the kit breakdown. We're on to strategy.
We did it. We made it all the way through. For the other normals, we're using them where they're good, right? If I need tech, I use tech. If I need parry, I use parry. If I need defender spike, I use defender spike. Those ones
Pretty
kind of
much.
speak for
You are a
themselves.
little less reliant on Spike than other characters too, just because for the value that Spike gets you at ending the game, you have a better tool.
Right.
So
Okay.
you still want Spike as a mix-up tool, but you don't no longer need Spike as here's my IA checkmate.
Sure. Okay, that makes sense. And everything else for the normals, it's pretty conditional, and it's pretty much like another character with the threat profile that Rachel has would use them.
Yep.
Makes sense. Okay.
One other thing. Because you are a force-sensitive character, block is even worse for you than normal.
Okay, and block is
if you
already
block a
pretty
sweep,
dicey.
you are very sad.
Yeah. Okay.
So it is the usual dynamics. Like if you block like a grasp or a cross, you're pretty happy. If you block a sweep, you're sad. But just like to the extreme, because now you want the gauge really badly, and you don't want to be paying to block the sweep.
Right.
You will always take 1 damage instead of spend a force. You might even take 2 damage instead of spend a force while blocking sometimes.
Okay. Yep. So again, that resource exchange rate between now we've brought in life to force costs, and your force is so tight that sometimes it's okay to just take some damage instead.
Yep.
Makes sense. Okay.
So this section is the one that I was like struggling the most with, by the way. What do we do in a game? Because I can tell you all sorts of like things about the cards, I can tell you all sorts of like little combos and stuff, but like how do I explain like here's the overall strategy?
Right.
So this is my best attempt. We get resources while playing neutral as best we can, and later on we use those resources to neutral skip. We use them to just win when the opponent is not ready for us to.
Okay.
So the most obvious example is just like okay, you are threatening something. No, I'm here. I'm hitting you for free.
Right. That's our neutral skip. That's the payout.
That's one of them. There is, of course, this as well as these. But.
Of course, yeah. But when you, what I mean is when you say neutral skip, that is an example of what you're talking about. Is going to a place and doing something they can't deal with.
Exactly.
Okay.
So how do we actually do that? We boost intelligently, mostly normals, because as I was mentioning, this boost is for Sword Approximation. Never boost this. This boost is good. This is a single boost as well as normals. And then these free boosts are a little more niche. And then this boost is very niche, and this boost is a specific tool.
Right. All of these get much more threatening in Exceed mode in particular. This one is
less this one. Oh, but sure. Yes, the rest of them.
Yeah, the others do.
This one just is positioning sensitive, basically.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, we play mostly normals. We prep whenever we feel safe to do so. We can move 1 prep. That's a big deal. Don't do it too often, because don't move just for the sake of moving. Have a plan with your move 1 prep. Like a really good reason to move 1 prep would be your opponent is threatening something really scary at range 2. Okay, go to whirlwind range and prep, for instance. But yeah, we move 1 boost, we move 1 prep, we stand still in boost, we stand still in prep, and we place lightning rods in a way that lets us control the board and make it hard for the opponent to do their scariest stuff.
Right. And are we also at the same time as we're accruing these resources to cash out with later? Is this also kind of where we're annoying the opponent?
Absolutely. That's the lightning rods, the Ivy Blossom. This is a boost that says draw 1, so this is another boost that's really just nice to boost for value as well.
Right.
A lot of our annoying stuff is stuff that we want to be doing anyway. We play a lot of slows, so that is another thing where it's like don't overboost these 3, because we will need to play them.
Right.
So it's, I don't know, this is a good boost, this is a good boost, this is a good boost.
But all of the attacks are doing things that the rest of our kit really can't.
Exactly.
Sure.
And this goes back to the same grasp and sweep fierce and light thing. You just have to think about it really carefully every time.
Sure.
Our options are pretty expensive, but if the opponent overcommits, we get to do the runaway and Libelius, or even this is less appealing, but something you can do is all right, Sulfide Flight to here and cross out.
Cross out, sure. Yeah, it's force inefficient, but if you need to get out of the corner, you need to get out of the corner.
Yep.
Okay.
The other thing is people really like boosting light at range 3, and the like natural counter to that is go to range 1 and play it slow. You can just do that.
Right. And if you boost a
Uh,
light and they come to range 1 against you, that's not real counterplay against Rachel because she can just back up and keep the pressure on.
yep,
Okay.
yep.
Okay. So
Um,
so that's kind of like the accrue resources, use them, and then the combo part, the part where we're cashing out, is going to be, it sounds like very freestyle. It's going to involve what we still have left. We're hoping to hit with an ultra or use our exceed mode to set up some kind of unreactable, horrifying thing. Hopefully, with some lights or some fears and a spike drop in there somewhere. Maybe George the
yep.
13th if you're literally me. Um, Initiative, advantage chains, all of those things are going to um, come into play as our like super scary end game that we're building towards. Correct?
Yep. And this is also where the decision about like multiple lightning rods in one space or lightning rods in multiple spaces come back to.
Okay.
That can be another like end game is like, okay, here's our 3 lightning rods. If I ever get you in grasp range for you, you're taking 9.
Yeah, you explode. Or if I ever exceed, I just pull you to it and do something to you.
Yep.
Okay.
So, like you said, it's quite freeform. You are good at long range because you just got to kind of pelt them with projectiles, and you can also prep. Prep is a really big deal because they probably can't punish your prep at long range, and this is a great opportunity to actually draw cards.
Right.
Um, and especially if you have been throwing out the projectiles later, you can teleport in when you're ready. But if your opponent's at range 1, then you just kind of, okay, here, pass, your turn. Okay, here, pass, your turn. Here, pass, your turn.
Right.
So you're annoying
Eventually
at
you
any
have
range.
eventually you have to move.
Yes.
Okay.
Um, so that's more of how we play neutral. Just be really annoying. If it looks annoying to your opponent, Rachel probably wants to do it.
Okay.
Um, and in the mid range is nice because here we get to just like hold this mix up over our opponent's head.
Right.
If we're initiating, this doesn't even have to be a mix up. And then if they do something that makes us annoyed about our current state, we can just be like, okay, no, I'm here instead, or no, I'm here instead.
Right.
We have the most options of where we want to be. So yeah, as Rachel, you are always annoying. Embrace that. It is your strength.
And then when it's time to stop being annoying and time to start killing the opponent, it's going to be because you've got the resources that you need to start cashing out.
Yep.
Okay.
So I keep saying Rachel's expensive, and I feel like that probably has mostly come through from looking at the cards, but just to like spell it out, what do we spend our force on? This is really expensive. Change cards is a big deal because we do need to draw cards that do things in board states. We can't afford to really lose strikes for free because our wild swings are quite bad.
Yeah.
Here are cards that don't hit at range 1. Here's a card that really only hits at range 1, basically. And here are this is your good wild swing, Black Flight Abelia, to be fair.
Right. And it's a
And
force
here's a card
special, so
that
you can
probably just
invalidate it if you need to.
yep. And this card probably just doesn't do too much when you wild swing it. So
Right.
your wild swings are both inconsistent and not that impressive.
Right.
But which is another tough decision because that means you want to defend from hand if at all possible because that gives you a better chance of winning a strike. But defending from hand costs force, so sometimes you have to wild swing anyway.
Right. Okay. And that when I'm wild swinging, I should be kind of resigned to losing the strike. If I don't, I'm like, oh, cool, that's
A
a
lot of the
bonus.
time, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. With the usual caveat of like if it's not in your hand, it's in your deck. If you have a hand of like 7 cards, none of which work right now, you've got a decent chance of wild swing just by like probability.
Just the numbers
And
might favor you, but you aren't you're never gonna do a Hazama or a Ragna wild swing combo.
yeah, you're never going to like intentionally be wild swinging unless you like are down to 1 card in your deck and you know what
Right.
it is type of thing.
Right. Okay. Makes sense.
This is expensive because it costs you that force, which matters. This is very expensive, and you will probably be doing this a fair bit of the time. Like, by a fair bit of time, I don't mean you'll do it a lot of times in one game, though you might. I more mean it's rare that you will go through a game and never do this, the
Right.
Sylphid Flight.
Right.
And then lastly, blocking, because you do that is unfortunately another thing about like your defense not being great. Sometimes you do have to block, despite it being like quite bad for you. And that's another way you spend force. Hopefully you're blocking like a grasper, a cross, or an assault or something that like doesn't drain you even more force.
Right.
Um,
And
and
I
what do
so
we
I
spend our gauge on?
Oh, I was gonna. So I think you're going in the same direction I am anyway. But so it occurs to me that like Rachel is expensive in a way that sometimes I ask like, all right, how are you going to afford all this stuff? The answer with Rachel is that you cannot. Like, if I try to do this and this and her exceed mode and this, I don't have the card draw to afford all of those things. I don't have the force to afford all of those things every time I want them forever. So part of playing Rachel economically is spending the cards I can afford to spend. Another way to think about it is that I need to be very frugal with these effects because I can't afford all of them.
Yep.
Okay.
Like if you're going to move two, think really carefully about if you could get away with moving just one type of thing.
Yeah.
Um, like we were saying earlier, like you might just take 2 damage despite you having played block, even though you could spend a force to take 0.
Right. Right.
The way you afford stuff is by buying yourself time and space to prep.
Yeah.
Basically.
Okay. That makes
Um,
sense.
and
Hence
recurring
games
lightning
going
rounds, that
long
does
too.
matter a lot. Yes, that yep, exactly.
Right.
But if you can like
Sorry,
recur two
I
force of a
talked
lightning
over
rod,
you that you said that matters a lot. I talked over you. What did you say?
recurring lightning rods is the other way you buy force. Is like
Mm,
if you recur like Tempestalia, like
that's two
either
force.
via lightning rod or Tiny Abelia hitting. Yeah,
Right.
either way, that's a force bank that you would not normally have.
Got
That's a
it.
big deal.
Okay, I see. And sorry, you were talking about what do we spend our gauge on? And I kind of took us down a
So yeah,
side trail.
this is good. Anything listed in force, first off, just like your gauge is force, it's going to have to be force a lot of the time because you need to preserve options in hand to like do your setups or have
Right.
defensive options or whatever.
So a gauge could be spent on flying lobelia or Sylphid flight or any of the other things that we already talked about.
Yep.
Okay.
And Flying Lobelia, that's a nice thing about spending gauge for it is you get a little more control again over like what you want to place as a lightning rod. So
Right.
you might spend a gauge just to place a lightning rod instead of a, a lightning rod that will actually do something nice for you later.
Right.
But it's all pretty contextual. And then aside from force, we do everything here is a valid use of gauge. All four of these are
Okay.
real.
And I probably don't need all of them to kill my opponent, but I am going to need to budget
Yeah,
towards a
something.
gauge payout. Yeah.
Yep.
Like this is incredibly high value, but it might not be enough on its own to just win the game.
Yep.
But careful use of my abilities, getting good resources, and choosing one or two of these probably will win me the game.
Yep.
Okay.
And
Okay.
then you've got like a sliding scale of expensiveness where like this is really expensive, this is pretty inexpensive, and these two are in the middle.
Right.
Because they're 3 gauge, but this one probably wins you the game if you hit it, and this one at least refunds itself a lot if you hit it.
Right.
This one's cheap and refunds itself probably because you get to recur some lightning rods. And this, like I was saying earlier, could cost your whole gauge and your whole hand.
Yeah, this is even if you're drawing cards with other boosts, like this is the most expensive thing you can possibly do.
Yep.
Okay. And the coolest. You get to play the
Yep.
frog.
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
So now like more like specific combos and interactions and like openers. So openers, this is a really classic one, is you just retreat 2 and strike with Tiny Abelia. Spending an altar so you get the altar into gauge. This can be good, especially against characters that are more melee dependent than you are. Because it is weak to cross out. That's the drawback of it, is
Right.
if the opponent just crosses out, you're sad. But if the opponent crosses out and there are some characters you're like, that's fine, I'll just prep for a couple turns.
You're
This is
probably more comfortable here or closer to being comfortable here than they are.
yep, because like if you have another training ability, you can move forward to strike again, for instance,
Right.
is another thing you could do.
Right.
You can self-feed flight with the tiny ability that you just struck with. It does still go to the stage's lightning rod, even though you missed.
On miss, sure. Okay.
You have options. This is where we come back to the like you have to win the game though, because you just did something really force expensive that is putting a card out of your reshuffle.
Right.
You can't like, get away with this always because if you do stuff like this often enough, you'll just kind of run out of ways to win the game.
Okay.
You could repeat one instead. That's pretty matchup dependent. Like if their range 5 is as weak as their range 6, then you don't need to spend the full 2.
Right. If you're
Um,
up against somebody who has like a fast dive that hits at 4 that could deal with tiny lobelia, but they don't have. I'm thinking of like Kai, for example, who has a. Uh, well, actually, I mean Kai's Fudra
yeah,
arc
Kai has a
could.
fireball.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's got
food
he's
arc
got
too.
he's got several things he could do. They could actually deal with
Um,
with something like that.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, but to your point,
Like a Jin. Jin's fireball is 2 to 5, and if it hits you, he closes in. But if he doesn't hit you, he doesn't get any movement.
sure.
So if you go to here against Jin, Jin's options are pretty limited.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay.
Um, I don't do this very often, just because I do think it's like pretty. It's very telegraphed because you don't have any mix-up at range 6. You're playing Tiny Lobelia, and it's pretty committal if they do cross out or whatever, or if just trade with your fireball somehow. Then you're not that happy about what you got.
Right.
The other option is retreat 0 or 1 and play Flying Lobelia. This one's pretty good. I like this. This also doesn't hit cross, but your positioning's a lot less bad into the cross because now like you're closer. So if you do want to go in and do something or like threaten Tiny Lobelia, you don't have to spend force on it, and you still have room to retreat into if you need to later.
Okay.
But this is expensive. Is the problem with this one because this is a force special. And this one, depending, it's another like kit dependent thing. This is speed 5 and pushes 1, so it probably just beats whatever.
It might be
But it
it
might.
might be useful on defense, and you wouldn't even need to strike with it on your turn if they're going to strike into you from here.
Yep, and then stuff like Jin Fireball again. Like Jin Fireball, if you want to be safe with this, you do have to retreat 1, which
Right.
is now telegraphing that you're doing this, because if you were doing this, why didn't you retreat 2?
Too. Sure.
Etc. etc.
Okay.
But this one's fine. The main problem with it is just you go down cards in hand, and like if your opponent, like you hit your opponent, you push them out. You do this, which is I think a mistake usually in this situation, but like for the sake of argument, you put a lightning rod under them, and
Right.
they cross in, and now you're set because you have 3 cards in hand, and your lightning rod is out of position.
Right. And that's the
So-
reason it's a mistake is because you've put a lightning rod in a
Yes.
place that it's about to be very
I
irrelevant.
would probably put the lightning rod here if I were
Okay.
to do that most of the
That
time.
makes sense. That makes sense. Okay.
Prep is another good opening. This is probably the default opening if you're player 1. It's just prep. Move 1 and prep also exists, but as usual, you should have a reason you want to do it.
Okay. So that
if
same
you're-
Jin example that we were just talking about, like if they have a range 5 play, you would back all the way up, or you would come in or something and then prep.
Move 1 in prep is a lot easier to justify than move 2 in prep.
Sure. Oh, sure.
Especially
Okay.
if you're not. Yeah. But like why you'd want to move 1 in prep, I don't know, you have like EX flying or EX assault, you could be here, maybe.
Right.
Something like that.
Okay.
Whirlwind you want to threaten, though if you're going here to threaten Whirlwind, you probably want to like boost Fierce or something instead.
Right.
Player 1 is a lot more incentivized to prep, player 2 is a lot more incentivized to like do the Flying Lobelia strike or move and boost.
Right. And moving
That's
and boosting is something is like another separate category of opener.
Yep, move and boost is the 4th one, which is probably this is in my opinion the most fun one. It also does have some nice properties to it. You can just do like, okay, I'm here, I'm boosting light, turn 1.
Right. That's strong.
That's like an immediate threat your opponent has to deal with. Yep.
Yeah, that's a very, very strong setup.
The problem with it is that your opponent might deal with it by like going here and now, oh well, I guess I have to back up again,
Right.
potentially.
Right.
But you can also just like walk in here and boost Fierce, and now you're threatening Whirlwind with Fierce. Like there's just lots of things you can do with the move 1 and boost. So that one's nice. It is also a little better than it looks. Like you are getting the value of being at this range and having a boost in play, but you're also buying yourself space to retreat into later. Because if you sit here and prep, really common opener is they'll just run here. And if you move 1 and boosted, you have further that you can back up if they do something along those lines.
Okay, so you've taken closer to the center and are building resources, which might be better than building resources at starting position if you have a card that you can afford to lose.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what do I do with lightning rods? This is inspired by like actually watching a person who hadn't played Rachel play Rachel, because I was like, what do I write for this section? I'm desperate. I just asked someone to play Rachel for me, and I think one thing I got from that is lightning rods are pretty non-intuitive what you do with them. It's pretty dependent, like I was saying earlier, on like your opponent's options and hand size. So for a Ryu, you might want to put it here so he turn off one of his movement directions.
Right.
If they have enough cards in hand, they probably have a run. You put it like here to turn off run. If you are expecting to be able to keep being aggressive, you put it right under them to make them deal with it. After playing Lobelia, that's when you will probably make that choice of, do I want to put it right under them or do I want to turn off run? Because those are the two like most generically good things to do.
Right.
The boost on Spike Drop, the main difference with this is that this will actually be something you're doing at range 1. And when you're doing it at range 1, placing the lightning rod at range 1 is like best of both worlds because they're both being like zoned, should I leave, should I get zoned out, and you're immediately threatening to pop it.
Okay, so I can use it as zone denial. I can use it as a threat. I can use it as a recursion source from my discard pile without any sort of like I sacrificed it to put it on the board in the first place. Okay.
Yep.
Oh.
Can you repeat yourself? You're cutting out from me. You probably were fine in your recording, but just in case you weren't.
Oh yeah, thank you. I was just saying that like if you're at range 1, you are simultaneously denying your opponent a range by putting a lightning rod down with Lotus Barrel. You're also establishing a threat. You're also recurring straight from discard. Those are all like great qualities.
Yep.
Okay.
And then should I overlap my lightning rods in one space? Default to no, just because covering more spaces makes it more likely you'll actually get to pop them. But if you have a concrete plan, like you are planning to exceed in the near future, or your opponent is low on hand size and you think that you can get away with it, or they're at range 1, which is a good place to like really make their life hard, then
Right.
you can put them in one space. Though, notably, the thing about range 1 is grasp and benefit in this mix-up. You don't actually have a 7-power grasp right now.
Okay, so
7-power
I
cross.
I'm still yeah. Okay.
Yep. So, but this is still good. This is the main situation I would put them in one space. It can be something you play for. Like, instead of I'm going to exceed or I'm going to play the altars or whatever, you can be like, I'm going to put like 3 lightning rods in one space and I'm going to do my very best to get them into that space. And that's my game plan.
Right. Right. Okay.
That was actually one of the first things I did when I was learning Rachel is like, I wasn't sure how to get value out of lightning rods, and someone mentioned that that was a thing you could do, and I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And it's a little more linear than using lightning rods to control space.
Right. Yeah, it's like easier for a newer Rachel player to understand.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Mulligan, by and large, this is like pretty contextual on what you see in your hand currently. Like, have a game plan, have something to defend yourself, have something threatening to set up. Consider keeping run to uncorner yourself because you will probably end up in the corner fairly early.
Okay.
So having run around is nice. And how do you pop lightning rods for value? Oh god.
I was gonna say otherwise for Mulligan stuff, mostly the same as other characters. Like
Yeah.
the advice have something to do on defense, have something to do on offense. Like that's typically true.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay, but
The main special thing is the keep run.
yep.
The you particularly care, like some other characters can be like, I don't really care about my defense. I'm just gonna go hit them. You probably care a little bit more about having something to do on defense, so you have an opportunity to prep, even if you're immediately going to hit them, just because you're going to have to prep eventually.
At some point, sure. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. And then how do you pop lightning rods for value? You've got a nice board of lightning rods, like here, and Ryu is here. Flying Lobelia, great one. Gets this lightning rod, that's perfect. Tempestalia is another great one, gets them both. Grasp is the cheapest one. The one thing about Grasp is do make sure you have a mix-up. If you do this and they play sweep, and you trade 5 for free and you get a card back and you get swept, you didn't win that trade.
Right.
So this alone does not actually give you a mix-up at this board state. If you just play Grasp, you'll probably lose that strike.
So maybe consider crossing out if you have room to cross out.
Setting up boosts so you have more of a real mix-up, something.
Yeah, have enough power to throw Spike Drop onto it or something.
Yep.
With a lightning rod in play.
Side is the highest commitment, but you have the most control.
Right.
These options are weakest to focus. These options are not that weak to focus because this one happens out of strike, and this one, if you get focused when you're playing Flying Lobelia, you probably don't care. most
You
of the
feel
time.
pretty good about that because that's a focus that they can't use on one of these.
Yep.
Okay.
Um, this card, if your opponent remembers it exists, you have to be willing to initiate with it because people who remember this card is real uh, don't tend to just lose to it for free.
Right.
But luckily, you are Rachel, so if you have to, you can just be like, I'm retreating to and now initiating with it. Like, you
Right.
don't, despite the 3 to 5, you can play it pretty flexibly. And now the Exceed side, it has its own special section now.
Okay. I'm
Yay.
so excited to learn some Exceed combos. I think we talked about them
Yeah.
sort of here and there throughout, but no, definitely
Yeah.
this is why I'm playing Rachel for sure. This is my line.
Yep. I like the Exceed side. It's not the only way to play. I'm gonna like throw in this initial caveat here. I'm talking about it because I think it's the thing that needs the most discussion about the ways to spend your gauge. I
Right.
think
The
if you
others
just
are
spend your
pretty
gauge as
straightforward.
force, yeah. If
Yeah.
these are straightforward, spending your gauge as force lets you do the good stuff you're already doing. Exceed side actually needs like a plan. Um, I like to exceed. I find that like lets you push your advantage better than alters because they're more defensive tools a lot of the time.
Sure.
Like this is an above curve option. This is like okay, don't initiate into me at range 3.
Right. This is probably above curve as well on account of if you're on a lightning rod anywhere, basically it is.
Yep.
Okay.
Um, but this is how you actually like get to the spike drop checkmate, or you don't even need a spike drop. You can just do like light spike, fierce
Right.
threat assault, whatever. The world is your oyster. The one thing is you're going to need to care about what's in your hand because if you exceed with a hand full of boosts you don't want to play or boosts you literally can't play because they're not continuous boosts, you're not going to get a lot of value out of it. And then the problem as well is that a lot of times the cards you're going to strike with are cards that have boosts on them themselves.
Sure.
So like, oh, I want to boost initiative and strike with a whirlwind and then strike with a spike drop. Well, I hope you have another boost in your hand besides impish because you just spent impish on the whirlwind.
Right.
Um, or I'm going to boost fierce and then strike with sweep. Well, no more light for you.
Right.
So that is a pretty constant problem is like you're going to be spending your boost doing your attacks as well. That's part of why it's so nice to, if you're exceeded and have a little bit of a gauge surplus, spend the gauge as force instead of cards for your hand, is because it lets you keep your options for what to spend
Right.
from what to do from hand more open.
Exceed at 4 gauge instead, and you have something to spend.
Yep, sometimes,
Okay.
yep.
Okay.
Um,
So I do notice though, Rose, when you called out the things that you might want to do in
mhm,
Exceed mode, you did pull like half of the deck. Right.
yep,
It's not difficult to find a combo. It's
yep,
difficult to find a sustainable game winning combo.
yep,
Right. And one that would justify the expense of exceeding in the first place. So again, we've talked several times now about like any boost that draws you one to keep that combo going. If if half your deck could be part of the combo, what you need is raw material more
pretty much.
than
Um,
specific options.
For the most part, yes, with the caveat that cards that have continuous boosts are also cards you want to play in neutral. So it's not that unusual to have a hand which you've been playing for a while and have your hand be full of cards that you don't want to boost that badly.
Right. That makes sense. Okay. So we do need to preserve something for the long run. Uh
Yep.
Often in order to have a combo to play as Rachel. We could be depriving ourselves of our endgame by playing neutral too aggressively early. But the things that we're actually going to be doing in our exceed mode, we're not going to be starved for choice if we just look at her options. There's a lot of things I can do.
Yep. And
Okay.
this is also another thing where we talked about this before. Lightning rods that come back to be boosts is good because if you are in that situation where your hand doesn't have that many appealing boosts, having like an initiative or a fierce just sitting around on the field, where because you've exceeded, you can probably pop it, helps a lot. It goes a long way.
Right. I see. Okay. That makes sense.
Um, don't overcommit and lose afterwards. This happened to me in a tournament game. I think I did play George, and then I played like EX Whirlwind, and then I didn't have a defensive option against the on curve because I really wanted to keep George live, and I played Whirlwind instead of playing just like Assault, and I didn't have any Whirlwinds anymore. Um, so do bear in mind you still need to like not die in the turns while you're exceeded.
Even after you're like, all right, it's go time. I'm going to kill you now. And then they just like knock you over.
You think you cut out again?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was not saying anything of importance. So can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was making a joke about them just knocking you over while you're like, it's go time. It's time to kill them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Um. Yeah. So I think I've already mentioned everything with lightning rods. Basically, when you're exceeded, the one thing is I keep mentioning this as a trade-off because the lightning rod that you most want to be in play as lightning rods are like these three, and these are also just three really good cards for you. And when you place a card as lightning rod, you do have to accept the possibility that you will never see that card again.
Sure. Yeah, you might not be able to recur it at all.
Yep.
Okay.
Um, and then yeah, these two are great when you are exceeded. They are quite strong. So absolutely, if you have a chance to play the exceeded George, do it. You can even go like card positive while playing George, quote unquote card positive, because you pay for the force from your gauge and you
Mm,
draw a card. So you spent this card that you couldn't play because you just spent all your gauge to exceed, and you got a card that you can play without
right.
going down any other cards from hand.
You go option positive.
Yep.
Okay.
So these are good when you're exceeded. Um, they also, notably, the order of your exceed is a little. It doesn't stop you from. The order you do the things in your exceed mode are not the order you should think about your exceed mode. Because I'm here, let's say, and I have my lightning rod here, and I have my assault, and my George, and my cross, and my dive in my hand. I would love. So first off, it's my overdrive. Oh, I should put George on the table here and draw a card. That's awesome. Oh wait, now if I play my assault, which is what I wanted to do, I have to pick between the lightning rod or the George.
Right.
What I should have done is I should have thought about it and I should have said, okay, after I play my George, what I'm going to do is pull my opponent one. So I should play my George here and then pull my opponent one, and now my
And
assault is amazing.
and then assault. Okay, I see. And now I've got 7 damage advantage. I drew a card. I can hopefully use that later. I
Nine
spent everything
damage.
else in my hand to do that.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So
Okay.
even though your exceeded mode happens in a specific order where you do the overdrive and then you push and pull and then you like actually take your turn, think about the whole turn before you commit to any of it. Because yeah, stuff like this is very common. You are often going to want to be using this push and pull, like that's what you're paying for a lot of the time, as well as the
Right.
overdrive.
Right. Right. Right.
So make sure to know where you want your opponent to be before you start committing to stuff on the board that you'll have to live with.
Okay.
Um, And then boosts that are good and exceed, once again, light, fierce, initiative, as well as the ones that we mentioned as being like these specific boosts are exceed mode benefited a lot, and this one's benefited a little bit.
Okay.
So these are boosts that you want to have in hand, at least some of in hand, especially these three, especially this one, to a lesser extent, these two.
So any number of these would justify me going to my exceed mode. Um, I would need a couple
Um,
in order to justify
yeah,
it.
you would
Correct.
need you would need a plan. You need like 2 turns of stuff you want to do, and on the third turn you could just like boost something
Freestyle.
defensive and
Yeah.
prep.
Throw a boost in prep or something because I don't have my my enhanced character ability anyway, and I've used up the last boost I'm going to get on my last turn.
Yep.
Okay.
But yeah, do you have a plan? Exceed with a big enough hand that you can do stuff with it. Um, you might exceed with like 5 cards in hand and like an extra card engaged. You might exceed with. You might be at 7 cards and take this action so you don't overdraw and then exceed
Sure.
type of
Yeah.
thing. Yeah, that's a very real consideration.
Yeah. No.
So
I mean,
exceed with a large enough hand to actually pay it off.
if what we're trying to do is be as force efficient as possible, discarding something for being over hand size is exactly counter to that. So spend force
Yep.
before you have to check hand size seems like a good idea.
Yep.
Okay.
Um, yeah. And then that's most of what I had for like overarching strategy and like combos and stuff. I do think this part is like I can tell you all these individual combos and stuff. You do have to play a little bit to get some of the flow down of like when do I want to prep, when do I want to boost what.
Definitely. I mean, like, so she's a complicated character, which is evident from the runtime of this lesson. She's also like, once you get everything down, she's also just difficult. So
Yep.
expect to make some mistakes when you're playing her. It's not going to be easy, even if you've internalized everything in this guide.
Yep.
Okay.
So unless you have any questions, I can go into counterplay and counterplay.
Yeah, no, you have done an amazing job of anticipating my questions so far. I would love to hear, now that we know all about what Rachel is doing, I would love to hear what my opponent is doing to stop her.
Yep. So I don't know. We're in a racial board state. Don't stand here because you'll get hit by flying abelia and pushed onto this, and you'll be sad. Stand here.
Right.
This is a much better place to stand. Focus is a big deal just in general because focus stops her from doing all of her positioning control she wants to do. And as Rachel, the way to deal with that is like force out focus with like a flying abelia in a situation, parry focus, strike in such a way that you think your opponent will, if they have focus in hand, have to play focus to defend against it.
Is reading focus into spike or spike drop, I guess, is focus big enough counterplay that I can kind of rely on my opponent holding it?
I wouldn't do that. It's like the same logic as the don't reading cross and play low tiger shot turn one. Like if
Right.
it works, it's really good, but you spent a lot of resources to do it and it might not work.
Right. And focus is like an all-star card that we're going to need to fight in melee because the game's going to go to melee a lot.
Yep.
Okay. Okay.
So it is a thing you can do, but it's not like the most consistent thing to do.
Sure.
And then Rachel has above curve options, both in her ultras, but also just a special. So like all of these cards are threats. Don't lose them for free. Like make sure it's a mix up. And luckily for you, because Rachel has kind of limited options at specific ranges, like she does have to get a little predictable playing Whirlwind. Like it's not usually a surprise when you're going to get hit by Whirlwind. It is a
Right.
mix-up still.
Yeah.
But you do
You have the
generally
mix
know
up.
once you're setting up for it.
Light spike, if you the boost you're trying to maintain with Whirlwind is light, could also be very relevant.
Mhm.
Okay. But
yeah.
to your point, don't lose to this for free. On Rachel's end, make sure you're in a situation where you can at least like not be totally
Yeah,
telegraphed
don't
that you're
be
playing
so
Whirlwind.
predictable. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And the biggest thing is just don't give her time to do everything she wants because that's her goal is get all the resources, get to just run away from you, get to throw you these projectiles, place lightning rods everywhere, exceed, push you onto the lightning rods, hit you with like 5 power, 7 speed spike drop.
Right. Right. Turns are a
Like
resource too.
yep.
Okay.
And like it bears repeating. This card theoretically I can't duplicate this card, but EX this card Fierce is
gotcha.
on curve, 8 power, ignores armor. Like,
Yeah.
this is a really scary thing. Like, you don't have to get hit by things of this magnitude that often. At 8 life, you could lose the game. So
Right.
you do have to stop her from getting these combos before she wins the game with them.
Okay.
More realistically, you are worried about like a 5 power light spike drop or like a 4 power EX spike drop, but it can go as high as 8. And she has her advantage chains. They're not incredible because she doesn't have that much advantage, but she has enough to be scary.
And with all of her other action compression, any advantage she does
exactly.
gets crazy. Okay.
Yep. Like that is the thing Rachel can do is like a lot of other characters you like, okay, I'm holding focus. So I'm at I don't know, like 8 life. If you assault into me and I play focus and I play block, I don't lose the game. Because, I just have enough armor. You're at this
Right.
range where you can't hit me with spike. If you're Rachel, you can be like, I'm assaulting into you. Okay, back up 2. I'm assaulting into you. Okay, back up 2. I'm playing spike.
Right.
Thing.
Right.
So like her advantage is really scary. She has a limited amount of it, but she can do a lot with the limited amount she has.
Okay. As long as again, we keep underlining this, as long as she can maintain her resources enough to cash out with those huge chains of turns.
Yep. And then that's the counterplay that is just like do everything I've been trying to say in the guide. Like you just need to play neutral really well and
Right.
buy the time to get the force. Do always, again, if you take a basic action, think about if you should move one and take a basic action, because you can, and like boost, prep, exceed, reshuffle, they all can potentially benefit from you just being at a better range when you do them and pass the turn back to the opponent.
Right. Okay. So look at your opponent's threats, look at your opponent's ranges, try to stick to places where they can't like productively attack you while you're doing things you want to be doing anyway.
Yep.
Okay.
Um, Sweep is big. Like focus is good because it stops her from doing what she wants. Sweep is big because you force her to discard cards, and discarding cards, she hates doing that.
Right. And
Um,
so I guess anything that you have, anything that your character has that can duplicate those effects, any other push resistant cards, any other card discard things are going to be strong against Rachel, like by default.
yep,
Okay.
pretty much.
Okay.
Um, and some like general like anti zoning stuff is like you can't get too out of position without cards. Like if Rachel, if you commit really hard to doing this and Rachel like teleports to here and starts throwing projectiles at you, that's a really bad situation for you. So you do need to like have some cards in hand just to, like if you do get out of position, fix your positioning.
To get back to a range where you can fight at least a little bit.
Yep.
Sure. Okay. And
And
then as
that is
Rachel, I assume look for times when your opponent is overextending and capitalize them as hard as you can.
yep.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So that's what I had for counterplay and counterplay.
Okay. No questions from me. You are doing an excellent job running the lesson. I feel I've been made redundant, Rose.
I don't know about that.
That's true. I do have OBS open. That could be my
Yes.
contribution.
Uh,
So that's it for counterplay. I think typically the last thing we talk about um is other characters who play a little bit like Rachel. Is that where we're moving to next?
yep.
Awesome.
So
Okay.
I will say Rachel is pretty unique. Like she just is a really extreme character in a lot of ways. So you get to do stuff that a lot of other characters just don't get to do. You have all this flexible positioning. You have all this crazy stuff. You have probably the hardest. That might not be literally true, but you have one of the hardest economies in the entire game. You just get to make a lot of complicated decisions really often. To some extent, season 5 is the force expenditure season in
Right.
general. So, like, if you do like the force decisions, season 5 is a good place to find them. Someone like Kazama probably has pretty high force costs.
Yep.
For instance.
I don't know how big a overlap between the neutral play patterns of Rachel and Tager is, but if you're looking for another character who like really is used to starving,
Yep.
man, Tager, Noelle, honestly, like yeah, Hazama, you already said. I think Kokanoe has some force problems. Like almost everybody here
Yep.
is going to be uh, strapped for cash at at the best of times.
Yep. And of course, some characters like the out of season, like Vega, comes to mind as
Oh
another
yeah,
person who has a really hard economy.
definitely.
Um, and then Sagat, uh, there's a whole running joke where I'm like, Rachel's not really a zoner. I'll accept that I'm wrong about that. I do think she's less of a zoner than the other characters you call zoners in this game,
Sure.
but she is a zoner. Um, and if anyone who's in on that running joke watches like 3 hours to see this, then I guess they get to have the last laugh.
Like literally 3 hours at this point.
But Sagat is probably one of those owners that's closer to Rachel in playstyle because both he and Rachel have the situation where they don't really make range particularly easily.
Right.
They are stuck up close and they can deal with that. They're fine
Right.
with that.
And their economies are weird, I would say. Sagat's economy doesn't seem quite as tough as Rachel's, but like getting an extra gauge with Sagat with Tiger Shot is like a huge upside, a huge upside for him.
Yep.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, the critical. I haven't written this down in my notes myself, but really criticals as a whole kind of have some of the dynamics too, where it's like, oh, I really should have crit that. I needed that effect. Or, oh, I really shouldn't have crit that. I needed that one gauge
Right.
later in the game.
Really, and like it seems like
That's
any
fun.
character who has a very relevant force cost on their character ability seems like they're going to have some Rachel overlap just because like you're going to be constantly tempted. and that seems like the Rachel experience.
Yep. I was thinking one of the guides we did in the past, I don't remember if it was like Dan or Enchanter C, like you really like hand management characters, and Rachel's another hand management character, I guess,
Yeah,
because in this case you're managing, you really want a lot of force and the options in your hand, and you really can't get them.
right.
Um,
Right. So anybody who specifically taxes your ability to build a good hand is somebody that if you like Rachel, or if you like those characters, you might be into Rachel for that reason.
yep. Polar Knight, just because like without me even mentioning him, he's come up like 10 times this
Yeah.
lesson about
Yeah.
like you have
He's
to
like
worry about the ice
my
types. He's
point of
got
comparison for him. Yeah.
yep. I do think they're quite different characters in a lot of ways, but they are very similar in terms of the exact like lightning rod ice spike thing going on. And then
Right.
you just have lots of text on their cards and finicky effects, the way Polar Knight does. And Rachel is kind of, it's like she has a lot of text on some cards and not that much on others. But like look at these cards; these have a lot of text for the most
Yep.
part as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you
This
compare
one in
that like
particular,
you compare that to our. I mean, like, yeah. Let's
yes,
like.
yep,
I wonder which one of these characters has a more complicated grasp of neutral.
yep.
No shade on Ryu.
So
Ryu's hard to play too, but
yep,
there you have to read more at least with Rachel.
yep. And then this one is like the most out there. I'm gonna say Zato. I feel like Zato I started learning recently, and I'm like, oh my gosh. Recently I've been learning Lychee as well, and Rachel's been my favorite character for a long time.
Mhm.
Um, but Zato is like, oh my gosh, this is kind of like Lychee in that you like place your marker on the board that gives you advantage by playing normals. In Lychee's case, you do it by playing specials mostly.
Right.
Um, and it's kind of like Rachel in that, wow, there are a lot of little decisions, and if you do them wrong, you lose the game, and you can say
You
like,
just
oh, I
die.
did that wrong,
Right.
and I lost the game.
Right.
So, like for Zato, a big decision is like, do you place Eddie at all when you play a normal? Because if you place Eddie at the wrong time and your opponent like steps on Eddie when you weren't ready for that, you just are miserable.
Right.
Like there's lots of like little. Mhm.
I was gonna say there's so little you can do in that situation. So similarly, like with Rachel, it's more like if you've overspent, it's really hard to undo that.
Yep.
Okay.
So you get to experience losing up close and personal. And I said at the start of the lesson, I really like that. I like losing. Like when I lose, I know like, oh, I made this and this and this mistake
You
for
like
sure.
you like losing in a granular way.
Yeah, it's nice like seeing like, oh, I could have done that different, and next time I will do it better.
Right.
Hopefully.
Right. Sure. Yeah. I mean, like Exceed is a 2-player game. Your opponent could have beaten you, but always having something to improve on like feels good. That is
Yep.
a something to continually strive for, and that some characters don't really give you that. If all you're
Yep.
doing is throwing mix-ups, you're like, well, I didn't have the right read. But
Yep.
if there's a
Which is
huge
yes,
no,
like
I'm sorry,
it's a
go ahead.
skill of
Yeah,
its own, but it's a skill that's a lot more nebulous. Maybe like you can't know that you did something right or wrong, or just like you messed up the read that time, but your vibe was like generally right. Whereas
sure.
like you can
Compare that to
actually see like
resource management is a much more like tactile skill.
yeah, exactly.
Sure, that makes sense.
Um, so yeah, that was kind of my segue to my conclusion from the similar characters. It's like, yeah, it's really fun to lose as Rachel. It's really fun to win as Rachel too, but
But you might
you
be
got to do
doing more
both.
than one of the other for a little while you're learning her.
Yeah, absolutely. She's definitely like really technical, both in rules. Like I think this is probably the first X to Succeed character you've had to spend like 45 minutes on just like little rules interactions, as well as
Yes,
the character themselves.
definitely. Yes.
But she's technical both in terms of rulings and like how you play her. It's really technical to actually do what you want to be doing to win. And if you can get past that, or if that's what you're looking for, Rachel's just like the best in the whole game.
Yeah, she seems really fun. I have gone through a lot of at this point I have learned 100. I would say at this point exactly I've learned 102 Access
Hmm.
Succeed characters. Thank you so much, Rose, by the way, for getting that number up a little higher. But
Hey.
Rachel is one of the ones that has been the most interesting to me for the longest, and a lot of that is because of what Rose is saying about like how fiddly and granular you can make some of these resource decisions while still like being a proactive character who's like pushing towards an end game. A lot of times those two things feel sort of counter to one another. So I really like Rachel. I agree with everything, co-sign everything that Rose is saying about her. Please, if you've made it 3 hours and 8 minutes into this video, please follow it up. First of all, follow it up with like a nap or something, but then go play Rachel. I think she will be a rewarding use of your time.
Don't sit still for 3 hours, ideally, without standing up and
Yeah.
looking at something in the distance,
Yep.
etc.
Hopefully, your first game of Rachel will be less than. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. No, I'm joking. I'm joking around. You finish your thought.
I was gonna say, hopefully, I was gonna joke around too, and it was gonna be just as useless as the other stuff I've been saying. Hopefully, your first game of Rachel is less time spent than the Access Exceed lesson that you've just watched.
Hopefully, we
can only pray.
Hopefully, it should be. Even a slow player, I think you can get through a Rachel game
in 3 hours.
Rachel games fairly fast. Yeah.
Here's hoping. You might lose. It might take you that long to win your first Rachel game. All right.
Yeah, I do think Rachel is how do you say? She does play longer games than other characters because you do both just take more turns and have to think more on any given turn, but not so much that like if you are a fast player, you don't have to worry about your games like suddenly becoming slow games.
Sure. I've seen you and Avusonian throw down 3 games in like 15 minutes with Rachel and Hyde. Like, we're overstating it for effect. As you learn her, you will get substantially faster.
Yep. And then my question is, have I won? Is this the longest Access Exceed guide officially?
It is. It's the longest Access Exceed guide by almost a half an hour.
Oh my gosh.
So you've blown past. So Coronair, we're calling you out. There's a new game in town, and it's Rose. Rose, thank you so much for this frankly absurd use of your time. I really cannot tell you how much I appreciate it, especially coming out of retirement for one last ride. You made it a good one. One of the no question one of the best and most comprehensive lessons that we've had on this series. I'm so excited to put some of the stuff into practice. I hope people have been. I know people use this as a podcast. I hope you all enjoy this one. I really had a really good time talking to you, Rose. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, this has been great. I'm really happy I got to come back for one last guide. Because I have this has been my main for more than a year now, and like I said, my BlazBlue main definitely for real. If I was any good at BlazBlue.
Well, you can do it in Exceed, and that's good enough.
Yes, I can do it in Exceed. So it's been great to have the opportunity to talk about my favorite character.
I'm so glad I could give you that. I'm so glad that by doing that, you could do me a huge 3-hour favor. Everybody wins. Well, I think I'm gonna wrap it up and let these people go implement some of the stuff that we've been teaching them about. Thank you again, Rose. Hopefully I will talk to you again soon. Hopefully everybody at home enjoyed this one. I hope they learned something. I hope they learned something. It would be the act of
pages of notes for this.
It would be the act of a pessimist to assume that after 3 hours they didn't learn something. Hopefully you had fun.
They definitely at least learned how this boost works when there's a lightning rod under the opponent. I had no idea about that.
Yeah, no, that one is
going
to be news to everybody, I think. All right, folks. Thank you all for your time and your attention. Rose, thank you for your time and your expertise. I will see you all for the next one. Good night, everybody.
Take care.